Hello, everyone. Welcome to Film Seizure. I am one of your three hosts today, Jason Oliver, and with me to discuss this movie is Geoff. Say hello, Geoff.
Hey, how's it going?
And I guess there's also a Chuck. Chuck, say hello.
Yeah,
There is a Chuck here. Hello.
I guess it's Chuck. He picked the movies.
We are on letter B of our alphabet month. And
Alpha Month.
Alpha Month. And today's movie is a fairly recent entry into the oeuvre of American cinema. 2022's Babylon by Damien Chazelle. Probably the most divisive movie of that year and probably of many years to come.
Yeah, I can imagine you either love this or hate this. There's probably not a whole lot of in between on this film.
But I also believe that 20 years from now, it will be considered how did this not get all of everything?
Yeah, I think so too. I think it will only, it will age like a fine wine. Let's use that metaphor.
It'll age like a lot of Kubrick's movies. Because a lot of his movies are surprisingly not well received at first.
It's interesting. So, all right. We all have different backstories, I think, with how we approached this movie the first time we saw it. I'll tell my bit first. I kind of got suckered by the reviews of this, by it being a mess and kind of find myself falling on the train of all the people saying, "Oh, it's not historically accurate. It's not historically accurate," and all that. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like this movie. So I kind of like avoided it for a while.
Plus, it's 3+ hours.
It's also 3+ hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I kind of avoided it. I was like, this is definitely the kind of movie, even if it's terrible, that I'm gonna want to see because I love like big swings and misses. Like I love watching those types of movies. But I was like, I'm gonna put this off. And then Geoff, you watched it.
I went to the movie theater.
Right, you went to the movie theater and you did one of your at the movies, Film Seizure at the movies about it. And I remember you being like almost kind of on the fence with it and had a lot of like complicated thoughts about it. And I was like, oh man, I'm going to put it off more. And I never even listened to that, by the way, because I didn't.
No, I told you everything. I told you everything you needed to know by just saying I have complicated reaction.
Yeah. So when I finally sat down and watched it, I watched it alone in my living room on my big 4K UHD TV, the way I prefer to watch most movies these days. And I was absolutely fucking engrossed by it from like minute one to the very end. I was like, loved it. Loved every fucking second. It's like the weirdest, coolest, historical, semi-historical roller coaster ride through like 1920s and 1930s Hollywood. And I just loved it. I mean, I loved it. I still love it. I'm on my third watch now for this episode. And I think as we were saying before the episode started, it's just every time I watch it, I like it a little bit more. So yeah, I'm excited to get into this one. I do though, I understand the divisive stuff about this movie as well.
Yeah,
I totally get it. And it is like Chuck said, maybe a love it or hate it type movie, but I'm firmly in the love camp.
Yeah, my story is not much different. I heard the conversation between you two and Geoff putting in the at the movies, and I remember him saying the last 15 minutes is going to piss you off because he did say that.
To like, Jason specifically.
Yes. Jason specifically. I'm like, I gotta see this. And then when Jason watched it and said he loved it, I'm like, okay, now I gotta like push it. Right, I got to push it to the front and watch it. So Steph and I watched it, and on the Chuck has to pee every 30 minutes meter, I don't know if I got up the first time I watched it, and I don't think I did today. I had to pause it for some reason today, but not to go to the bathroom. So it is like for a 3-hour movie, it flies.
Yeah, it does.
It is. It is. That's very well paced. That's another point
I want to make real quick before you jump in.
Go for it.
Your approach to this movie is I didn't watch this movie in time for my best of 2022 list, and I think I mentioned when we either recorded the next one or something like that this would have been on my list. I don't know where it would have fallen, but it would have been an easy top 10 for that year.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah, and Chuck, to kind of go, I think I sat in the theater for 3 hours and did not go to the bathroom. I mean, and I had every opportunity to. The movie reminds you to go to the bathroom a few times.
Yes, it does. 2 times it's way too early.
Right. But
I
then,
swear to God, I was shit on you. I was shit in your mouth.
but then, so I saw a lot of the trailers in 2022 for it because I go to the movies a lot. I prefer to go to a theater to see it because I feel more captive and locked in if I go to the theater.
Yeah.
It's an event. I got to get out of the house sometimes. And if I get out of the house and go into a movie theater, I'm like zeroed in. I had heard that it was, there was a lot riding on this because of La La Land.
Yeah.
Right.
And we're going to talk about that a little bit too, because Jason, I don't think you like that movie that much.
The ending kind of redeemed it for me.
Yes. I watched the end of that actually again today.
And it's one I need to go back and rewatch. But I was not having a good time with that movie until like the last 15 minutes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And Chuck, did you see La La Land?
Nope.
Okay.
I've not seen it.
I had not seen Whiplash. Which I think is sometimes considered even better.
That's kind of an infuriating movie in some ways. Like,
yeah.
It's like, I don't know. It just feels like way over the top, right?
Sure.
The J.K. Simmons character, but whatever.
But this is an entire 3 hours
movie. Yeah.
This is an entire 3 hours of over the top. So
yeah, but in all the good ways,
right?
Yeah.
So so it's like when this movie came out and it was like, it's not getting the reviews.
Well,
and I thought,
did you see First Man? Either one of you see that one?
No.
That one was okay. Very conventional in a lot of ways. Yeah. Okay.
So when this came out and it wasn't getting the reviews, I thought, man, I don't know if I want to spend 3 hours to do that. It's a lot. It would be a lot to go to a 7 p.m. showing of it after work one day, on a weeknight. But I then saw Brad Jones's review, and he said something magical. He said, this is an exploitation film. And I'm like, bought my ticket that like 5 minutes later, or got my ticket 5 minutes later.
This seems like a movie he would love. Did he love it?
Yes, it was like his number one movie of that year.
That does not surprise me.
But when I was watching it, I was like, man, there's a lot here. This is a movie that does reward you the more you think about it and the more you watch it. So it isn't, for 3 hours, I have spent 9 hours watching this movie, and it does get better. It does reward you. Now, that's not to say that there still aren't problems with it. It's still not a perfect movie, in my opinion. But when you really get into the characters, I think that's one thing that both this movie and La La Land does really, really well, is that you're left thinking about, all those things you ever wished for between characters that are supposedly in love, ain't gonna work out. And that's a heavy theme in both of those movies.
Well, yeah, it's a Hollywood story that's not a Hollywood story, which is fucking awesome. It's unconventional. In
absolutely.
That way.
Well, that's just it too. Like if you're gonna make a movie about Hollywood that shows it in a very unglamorizing light, right? It is going to piss off Hollywood critics.
Yes. Yeah. And it is surprising. Like, I do think that this is kind of that gateway movie. This is going to be the movie that will either, like, the newer age of critics are going to really appreciate this movie for being a little bit irreverent. And by a little bit, I mean a whole lot irreverent. Yeah. And the past generation critics are going to be disgusted by it. In fact, I believe Richard Roeper in so many words said, it was overstuffed and disgusting. And he is of that past generation. He's growing old, and he's not going to like the stuff that might be challenging to some of those kind of preconceived notions of what the glitz and glamour and the sheen that Hollywood likes to sell.
Part of I'm going to shit all over it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chazelle says that
right from the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the beauty of this movie is that it's still it's a magical movie in itself, in the sense that it is able to still convey the feeling and the magic of seeing a movie that affects you and makes you feel things, while also being perverse and disgusting and all the stuff that's behind the curtain, like showing it all to you. And it doesn't matter. Like, if a movie is done right, if it's made well, if it affects you, whoever you are, 99 out of 100 people could hate it, but if it reaches one person and makes them feel something, it's successful, right? And that's what I think this movie is almost thematically about in a lot of ways. Yeah,
it's art. I mean, this is art. We've talked about this before because you guys really liked, was it Crimes of the Future?
Yeah.
And for me, it wasn't, I mean, I recognize that it's art,
sure,
but it's not something I want to see again.
Sure. Man, I need to watch that again. Thanks for reminding me.
But that's what art is, right? Like, you can appreciate it even if you don't like it. You can hate it because it creates a visceral reaction in you. Like I said, I saw people walking out of that movie. But that's art. It should be challenging, and it's also important. And this is for, I mean, nobody who's on, who's going to be listening to this, but those people who sell their entire YouTube channels on the idea of that you can judge art objectively. It is objectively good. It is objectively bad. No, you can't do that. And this movie proves it.
One thing
this movie absolutely sets out to prove it in a lot of ways. Yeah.
One thing I did want to say about this movie too, because it's like holding up a mirror to Hollywood, right? In the 20s and even current, kind of. And the movie itself is like, is it an inflection point? Like, about halfway through the movie, it almost starts over backwards.
Yes. Well, yeah, because
which is wild.
It's a very much a flashpoint in the history of American cinema, because you've got the 20s and the silence, and then into the early pre-code films of the 30s, where it was like, wild, wild west of movie making. You could put anything on the screen. And then, the William Randolph Hearst and the money men and the new moralists start to crack down on media, and the Hays Code comes about, and it's a whole new ballgame for 2 decades.
Yep. And the movie itself has scenes that mirror one another from earlier in the film and later in the film, like multiple ones that are really good. One of the ones I think Geoff dislikes, I like a lot because of what it means to the beginning of the movie, but we'll talk about that and see.
Sure.
If it's still
I love the fact that it starts with that party, right, which is the most debauched party that you could possibly show outside of Caligula, and then you've got the William Randolph Hearst party, right?
Yeah,
like those two, how things have changed. This is the way we're going to behave now in Hollywood, and it's it's interesting.
And to couple what that to something else that Chuck says is that, think about special features on DVDs now. There's not a negative word said about any experience on it is sanitized. To the point where I don't watch special features anymore. I get the DVD, I want to watch the movie. I don't care about whatever's been passed through marketing. It's
unless it's the old movies that are being produced by boutiques.
Like
special features.
Or if I'm just genuinely curious about the creative process of how the movie got made. Right?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, but like, you're not going to see the Vivian Kubrick stuff from The Shining anymore.
Right.
Where you're going to see Shelley Duvall having a breakdown. And Nicholson and Kubrick just shrugging at her.
I mean,
basically,
you look at the stuff that even was leaking in the early 2000s with like I Heart Huckabees and stuff like that. Like who was it? It was whatever. The actress who was being berated by the director of that movie, who I also can't remember at the moment. Like that stuff, that's like big Hollywood like gossip now. You want to avoid that leaking at all costs because it does not help the promotion of your movie. It damages reputations, and you can't have that.
But don't worry, just go on the internet and people will share all the crazy things Hollywood are doing and have been doing for decades. It's pretty wild.
But it also doesn't. Yes, it is pretty weird, and also it doesn't really damage anyone because what's his name? David O. Russell went on to make several films. One of which was an Oscar winner.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing is that this, like, what's funny is that we always know. I mean, we grew up in a time where tabloids were. You're buying a pack of gum at the grocery store, and you're seeing the National Enquirer, right. And there's a sensationalized ad. Now, of course, that's mostly transitioned over to YouTube and Twitter and whatever else. But it's as if I mean. And using the term Babylon and using the title of the book Hollywood Babylon, that we've all known that there is a seedier side to Hollywood, and if you've ever been to Hollywood, all of the town is seedy and gross,
it's dirty as hell.
Yeah, it's a terrible town, and it's and it treats people very, very poorly. And we've known that all of our lives, whether we've actually been told that, witnessed it, or whatever. We knew that. It had to have been.
Well, when the Count tells Manny, or Manny says, I don't want to get involved with these people, and the Count's like, they're no worse than movie people.
Exactly. But it's almost as if nowadays, like, Hollywood is almost too worried and too self-aware of the Babylon. Right?
Yes.
So Hollywood is trying to avoid another book being written like Hollywood Babylon.
Which was probably like 50% bullshit anyway.
Oh, sure, but it doesn't matter. Is that it's too close to the truth.
Right. And honestly, like, they're trying to sell a product. They have images. Everything is about image. It always has been. I mean,
yep.
You look at the movie that this was based on, Singing in the Rain. I mean, it was critiquing that. The whole relationship between Gene Kelly and his co-lead was this fabricated romantic relationship that they did not have in real life. They hated each other behind the scenes, but for the papers, for the people, they were a real life couple making movies together, right? Because that's what sells. Yep. But some ways, I think we have like moved past that fabricated marketing into more real life, but
yes,
but they still try to heavily control it. Yes,
because
that's what publicists are for.
the big thing that came out just a couple of weeks ago was Sydney Sweeney saying that all of that women togetherness idea to avoid to fight for that Me Too is mostly bullshit, and I mean, I didn't want to believe that, but I knew it better. Yeah. And I knew that at the end of the day, there may be certain things being put into place to help. But when you get down to the individuals, people will probably sacrifice some of their beliefs and some of their values if they could get somewhere with it.
It happens in everyday life with nearly everything.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. It happens in business, and certainly Hollywood is a business.
Yep.
But anyway, I mean, so for the most part, I mean, I've already had a lot of time to talk about this movie on my own. There are a few things that I do want to talk about later as we kind of get into the movie, but for the most part, I want this to be for the two of you.
Oh, well, I know. I think I would like to hear those things because, I think that maybe some of them I'll be able to challenge in some ways, and others I will concede to and understand your point of view on. I think that makes it a more rich conversation anyway, and the movie is complex enough to invite that kind of conversation. So I'm excited about it. I want to also say that I did watch in the last 10 days, I watched Umbrellas of Cherbourg, which is a huge Chazelle inspiration movie. It's essentially what inspired La La Land. And and I watched Singing in the Rain, which also inspired La La Land, but most certainly inspired Babylon to the point where it's essentially the same plot but X-rated, and there are legitimately scenes from Singing in the Rain that are lifted and taken and put into Babylon that are then even referred back to at the end of the movie in, I think, the most perfect way. Like it is, I think it is the most perfect type of homage. It's like, yes, I know I'm making Singing in the Rain. I know I stole this from Singing in the Rain. And then if you haven't seen Singing in the Rain, I'm telling you I stole from this other movie, which is beautiful. But yeah, so I'm coming at this movie with like both barrels of my shotgun loaded. I was very excited to talk about this movie. So let's do it. Let's go.
Go.
All right. So what do we have? The very first scene, we meet Manny, and Manny is kind of he's an assistant. He's a manager. He works for what's his name? He's a movie studio head.
Flea.
Don Wallach. He works for Don Wallach.
He works up through Don Wallach. But yeah, Wallach has a studio called
Kinescope.
Kinescope. And he also has like his main fixer guy.
Bob Levine.
Is played by Flea, and Manny works for Flea. But he has been tasked with getting an elephant for it's Thalberg, right?
Yeah, Irving
No, Thalberg is MGM.
Wallach.
For Wallach.
For Wallach, yeah. I just got to remember Eli Wallach. That's how I can remember. So he's got to get an elephant for Wallach, and for his big party he's throwing at his, I don't even know if it's really his house.
Well, it's not actually, I don't think he's supposed to get an elephant. He's supposed to get a large horse, and they bring an elephant.
No, I think he wanted
gets
an elephant, but it wasn't communicated to the person who was supposed to be picking up and transporting the animal that it was an elephant.
Yeah, agreed.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yes.
That dude looks like Post Malone without face tattoos, by the way. In fact, it might still be him. I'm not sure that it's not Post Malone. I have to look and see, but I don't see him in the credits. Not Post Malone. Jelly Roll.
Oh, yeah, Jelly Roll. Yeah, okay.
Jelly Roll. Looks like Jelly Roll. Anyway, yeah, that guy freaks out. He's like, I can't. This is a truck made for transporting horses. They're like, this is the Hollywood way. Manny flashes some cash, and he's like, okay, we'll give this a shot. And then, of course, is the famous, now famous or infamous moment where we're 10 minutes into this movie, if that, and we have a giant elephant shitting on the people who are trying to push this truck up this steep incline to get it to the party.
It's
all over the camera.
It's really like the best warning shot ever.
Yeah, it's like
this is what you're in for.
Yeah, like kind of like the seatbelt warning a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And it's also because
they show the elephant's butthole open. Like it's not even like
it's a challenge. It really is.
Yeah.
It may not get it does get more gross from here. Yeah.
It depends on what you consider gross, I guess.
It's true. I guess it is like a spectrum, and very subjective. But I won't yuck anyone's yums. But yeah, we're gonna see a lot of weird shit, and that's kind of like the preparation. Yep, it is the yellow band trailer warning.
Yep,
red band trailer warning. But anyway, they get the elephant up there, and then we're introduced to the party. And it's a hell of a party. Like, holy hell.
I mean, this is Roman style, insane. People are dying.
Fucking everywhere. Yeah. People overdosing. Some dude's getting a wine bottle shoved up his ass.
Oh my God, that cracked me up. Because it's just
sound design on it. Thump.
And he's
like people are like naked everywhere. I mean, it's like Caligula type level stuff here. Yeah.
It's like what normal people, I'll put that in quotes, think goes on at Hollywood parties.
Right.
Maybe it did, but it's what everyone thinks goes on at those crazy fucking parties. Yes.
And on top of that, it is also the Roaring Twenties, which is something else we think is going on at maybe not at Gatsby's party, but at the class just under that, where it's like, it's just invite all the sexy bitches. Let's go. Let's do this. And I mean, and bring an elephant.
And bring an elephant. Yeah. And then, we meet, like, I don't even know who the guy is who's in the bedroom with
Piggy.
Piggy. I imagine he's like, who was the fatty
Wallbach?
No.
Warbuck?
Fatty, is that his name? The actor, the big heavy actor from the 20s?
Yeah, because he was also in the show, not Matlock. What was the remade show on HBO that had the investigator from back in the day?
Perry Mason?
Yeah, he was on Perry Mason, whoever that is. And he had problems because I think
Fatty Arbuckle. I should have known. We have an Arbuckle here. That's who I imagine he's supposed to be portraying is Fatty Arbuckle, but they just call him Biggie or something like that.
Or at least the perception of who he was. Yeah,
and he's with a young actress who is giving him a golden shower. So there we go. We've got
all over the place.
Shit and golden showers happening. Like
wine bottles up butts.
We're 20 minutes in, if that. Yep, wine bottles up butts. I mean, it's really challenging. I get it. Like if you're sensitive to like weird sex stuff, then or to bodily fluids in general, you're going to have a hard time getting.
Well, I don't want to derail this conversation. Sorry, I don't want to derail this conversation too much, but the amount of people right now that are saying there's too much gratuitous nudity in Nosferatu, like
that's weird.
That will tell you what. A large amount of people are
right
yes,
now?
Yeah,
which is why a lot of people hate this movie.
Yeah,
obscene. That's why. What did you say? Richard Roper called it disgusting.
Yep. Overindulgent and disgusting.
Disgusting. But of course, it's supposed to be. It's supposed to piss you off. It's supposed to like make you go ew if that's not your thing.
If nothing else, it's doing a wonderful job of setting the tone here.
Yeah. Absolutely. Anyway, so and I think that is supposed to be Fatty Arbuckle. Just saying, because he would have been around. There's a movie, sorry, this is a quick aside. Ken Russell made a Valentino movie, and Fatty Arbuckle is in that. He's not specifically Fatty Arbuckle, he just goes by Fatty, but it's fucking Fatty Arbuckle. And it's played by William Hootkins.
Oh, nice.
Hootkins from Star Wars. Yeah.
And Batman. Think about your future, Jack.
Incidentally, Valentino is kind of in this movie too.
He is indeed. Yeah, and it's funny too because Brad Pitt was one of 3 or 4 different actors that he used to model his character on.
Douglas Fairbanks for sure.
What was it? So sad or something like that.
He's so fucking good in this movie.
He really is. I mean, he is. Yeah, he's great. And
yeah.
But we meet him. All right. So this is when we meet him. Is at the party. Him and his wife pull
Olivia
up.
Wilde is the first wife. Yeah.
Yeah. She's only in it in this scene.
This is hilarious though.
And it's Brad Pitt doing his Italian from Inglourious Bastards.
Pretty much, yeah.
She is not having it.
And she hates it when he pretends he's Italian, and he's like, okay, I'll stop. She's like, if you don't stop, I will divorce you. And of course, he can't help himself.
No.
And then she's like, all right, I'm leaving. We're getting a divorce, and she leaves him at the party.
This is the classic. Like, he's the classic guy that cannot learn his lesson.
No.
Like, he never.
He does learn his lesson
for
and
a
then he
brief
can't
moment.
live with it. Yeah.
But yeah, he shows up. He has a buddy, George, who's very suicidal, who's a producer.
Played by Lucas Haas.
Yeah,
Lucas Haas, which it's like it took me for like you recognize his face immediately, but he's older and kind of bigger than I remember Lucas Haas being. I'm like, I know that guy, but I can't figure out who that guy is.
Yeah, which is interesting too, because I think that Leonardo DiCaprio was supposed to be in this movie, or maybe I'm thinking of something else, but that would have been like his whole like crew from the 90s back together.
The Pussy Posse.
Yeah, the Pussy Posse. Him, Lucas Haas, and Toby all back together again.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And the guy who directed the Exorcism, what is it? Is it John Jackson Miller? Anyway, he's Jeremy Miller's. He's Jason Miller's son from The Exorcist.
Gotcha.
Okay, gotcha.
So yeah, Jack Conrad shows up, and he's like, we get such good setup of these characters, right? Like Jack is a drunkard who's an infidel, who like doesn't take anything really seriously at all. And then we have Nellie shows up next, and she crashes into the fucking statue outside, and she's yelling at the security guy, and she's like, well, I should report you. Yeah, that came out of nowhere. But she's an aspiring starlet that will do anything to get fame, basically.
Wait a minute, though.
Geoff.
You don't become a star. Either you are one or you ain't.
Right. Which is important.
She's a star.
Yeah, she's a star. I am a star.
Yep. Yeah. She's trying to get into the party, and it requires Manny to basically lie for her, because it's basically love at first sight. We'll have a lot more to say about that, but yeah, that's how she gets.
It's the big Hollywood moment in this film about Hollywood. Right? Like, it's the one thing that rings true about other Hollywood movies.
Yep.
Is that it's love at first sight.
Yep. And it's usually, and it represents the audience too. When you watch a movie, you know, if you're a guy, there's, you know, typically as the story goes, you see Marilyn Monroe or somebody like that, and you fall instantly in you fall in love with the character, with the image of that person. And
this is a Chazelle theme, because unrequited love or a mistimed love, right? I mean, he explored that in La La Land. It's a central theme of Umbrellas of Cherbourg. Yep.
Yeah.
Interesting. Go ahead, Jason.
So Manny meets her, and they're doing coke in the basement of the storeroom of this mansion, which is hilarious. He's got like bags of like huge sacks of coke.
She practically dives into it like fucking Scrooge McDuck in his
his money bin. Oh my god! But then eventually he gets called away because Fatty Piggy or whatever his name is in this. The actress that he's with has overdosed, and this is when Flea is brought in, and one of Flea's other underlings, and they're trying to find Manny, and Manny shows up. Like, where the hell were you? They got to figure out how to get her out. Like, she's not dead, but she's supposed to be on set the next day, and she's not going to make it on set. And they got to get her out because they can't just carry her out because it'll look like she's dead. Again, like the perception of things, even though we're in this like totally debauched party.
Someone's going to notice.
Still some sense of, someone's going to notice a dead body.
Well,
right?
And also she's like 17 or something.
Yeah,
like
I think she's underage too.
Yeah. So it's not good.
Yeah. So,
plus you have the Snoopy reporter around.
Right.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
My absolute favorite character of this movie.
That's
Jean Smart.
Jean Smart. She's
from Designing Women.
She's kind of, in some ways, she's us, right?
No, I disagree.
Well,
Manny is us.
You're right. Manny is us. She's the glue, I guess.
She's the glue, but she's also
reality.
She is reality, and she is the she's the tabloid writer. She's the person who shows us all of the cracks.
Right.
Yeah. But she's also, and she's going to tell us in her own words later, she's the cockroach. She is the one that can survive everything that transpires in this movie.
But yeah, you're right.
Because she's not impacted by it. She is just writing about it.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, she will forever survive the comings and goings of all these other people because she's just the observer.
She's just writing about the people.
And, and she's just as dissatisfied as most of these people are as well, which is...
Oh, yeah. When you get to set, she hates her job.
Yeah.
She's kind of funny.
I knew Proust,
Is that Marcel Proust? He was a critic, right?
He was...
a writer and a critic, I think.
I think it was maybe a critic. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I know he was a very famous writer, and the thing I know about Proust is from Little Miss Sunshine.
That's probably where I know his name.
Because what's his name? Steve Carroll. He was the world's foremost Proust scholar in that.
Yes.
French novelist, literary critic, and essayist.
There we go. Anyway, so that's when he says, let's bring in the elephant. Big distraction. We can get the girl out the back. And they do. It works perfectly.
Somebody has a giant dick that sprays milk out at people.
Oh my God, the small man with the giant penis.
Yep.
And we also meet all the other minor and major players here, because we meet
Lady Faye.
Lady Faye. She does her My Girl's Pussy version of that, which was a real song in the 1920s, which is wild to me. But she does her version, and it's, she gives it a lesbian spin, so we know exactly what she's about, at least that she's a lesbian.
Right.
We see is it Simon?
Which
Sydney.
character?
We see Sydney.
Sydney,
the trumpet player, because it's his band that's performing at the party.
And this whole scene is driven by his music.
Yeah, which is drop down. Seriously, I don't care. I don't know what won this year, but it should have been Babylon.
It was Dune.
Ugh, no.
All the music in this reminds me of Too Many Zeus, in a way. Too Many Zoos. Excuse me, I said it wrong.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. But it's really good. I really love it.
It is energetic as hell. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk a little bit more about
but it is
later.
Melancholy in some themes as well, which is
the Manny and Nelly theme is really important, and I have much to say about that later.
Yeah.
Cool.
But so we meet Lady Faye. We already mentioned we meet Jean Smart, her character, the tabloid writer Eleanor. And we've met George, because George asks Brad Pitt asks Lady Faye to console George.
Yes.
because George is again, he's perpetually suicidal over a woman in this movie. Yeah.
Well, she's a lesbian. That's an uphill battle.
Yeah, that's an uphill battle for anyone.
But that's not even. It's not even later. Lady Faye that he's talking about.
It's a different lady.
It's a different woman.
Clara, right?
Claire. Yeah.
Claire.
Well, she's.
Well, that I think is kind of a wink at Claire Bow.
Yeah.
Right. Who the Margot Robbie character is named after or based on, but Clara Bow was suspected to be a lesbian. Yeah. Anyway, so party is over.
Yeah, there's a couple important things that happen here, right?
Yep.
Real important. I know what you're saying. Go.
So the girl gets taken out, and she was supposed to appear in the film the next day. And because she couldn't, Nellie gets tapped. Like, I think Flea looks at her and like, whoever that is, she gets the part.
Yeah.
There's also the thematic part of when they're doing cocaine, and Manny is saying, I just want to be a part of something bigger. I want to be a part of something that lasts forever, which is kind of critical to the theme of the movie, right? He's all excited on drugs saying this to Margot Robbie, or excuse me, Nellie Leroy. Nellie the King. And
she added the law, though.
Yeah. Yes, she did. She added the law. But it kind of intertwines them in a way that even more than his love of her does.
Yes.
Because they both want the same
They
thing
have the same idealism in a way. Yeah.
Yeah.
But in completely different ways. Mm-hmm. Because one is going to flame out hard.
Yeah.
But she also says in this scene that when her time is done, she's just going to dance off into the darkness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's going to enjoy her ride, and she may be remembered, sure, but she's going to enjoy it while she's alive. Is what she's basically saying.
Interesting. I forgot. I was trying to pay attention for those things that do mirror at the end, and obviously that does.
Yeah.
But it is contrary to the riding off into the sunset of what any Hollywood movie would do. Like she's saying she's going to do the opposite.
Yep. She's going to go off into the darkness.
Yeah. Kind of wild. Kind of wild.
But I think she's one of those personalities too who just knows that she's not going to be an old woman.
She's
going to die young. Yep. Yeah. She just kind of knows
the flash in a pan kind of thing,
and she accepts her recklessness. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just funny because Brad Pitt needed a little bit more of what she does, and she needed a lot more of what Brad Pitt is. These are two opposite characters that are kind of
they both would have ended up in the same place, I think.
I think so too.
But at the same time,
Brad Pitt even more, I think.
But at the same time, though, it's like she almost understands that she will be. Even if she's not alive, she will have life beyond that.
She will accept
that he doesn't. Yes.
She will accept fate. He will not.
Right.
Right? Like,
yeah. Right.
Sorry, just trying to.
That's exactly, that's perfect. Yeah.
The one other important thing.
Perfect.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was going to say, you have Manny in between who is like the pragmatist, right? He's unable to really put himself out there. He has guardrails for himself that he can't cross, at least when debauchery is concerned or drink.
And he's not talented. He's just driven.
He's right. He doesn't. Right? He's not. Yeah. He. What did she say? You're not bad looking.
Right. Yeah. He's like, thanks.
He's like, thanks. But yes, he's driven, and he's able to see the future. Right.
Yes.
That's important about Manny. Is he's able to understand the populist point of view. Yeah,
and he's the audience.
Yep.
He's also a fixer too, which is what the audience would want.
Well, and he's also
he's good at that, but you don't get the sense that he wants to be that, right?
Right. I mean, because he does have being a fixer and having a political ability of running something ends up forcing him to do something that is awful.
And he's honest too, though, and his honesty forces him into those situations too, right?
Yep.
Like, so let's send Manny to do this because he's honest.
Well, right.
And everybody likes Manny.
And it starts almost right from the jump. Who's this guy? He's the one they sent to fuck us.
Yes, but Manuel's great.
He does that several times throughout the movie, right? Like he is that guy. Yep.
The last important thing about the party. Conrad gets totally fucking wasted. He has one more drink for old time's sake or whatever he says. Like every little one-liner he has in this movie is hilarious.
God, his drink order at the beginning is insane.
Yeah. The body revitalizer with a hint
Corpse Survivors,
Yeah, Corpse Survivor, thank you. But he passes out and Manny is asked to take him home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is the other intertwining that really ties him to Hollywood.
And Manny has also asked Flea for a promotion. He's like, "Can I be on set?" And Flea looks, and he's like, "You're exactly where you need to be.
Yeah,
you're exactly where you should be." They do early on. He's the Mexican.
Yeah,
send the Mexican, do the and that's Flea basically saying, "No, buddy, you're not of us."
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Absolutely. Which is not. And at the moment you can think that's a racist thing. It's more of a class thing.
It is, and there's a lot of that in the early act of this. Like the first act and a half of this movie it seems like a very diverse and welcoming world, right? You have the Asian lesbian, you have Manny, the Mexican, right? You've got Sydney and his band, these black men playing music, and you slowly see that like
they all get flushed out.
And they all get flushed out for Hearst's moral white America. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Conrad being taken home leads to one of the funniest things I've seen in a movie in a lot of years.
Oh my God. I think I know what you're saying, but tell me.
So obviously he's drunk off his ass, and Manny gets him out of the car, and he's like dragging him, and then he gets a bolt of energy and like hits him in the nuts, and he's like, ha!
He does his Brad Pitt giggle, and he runs up to the.
He runs into the house. He puts on music, throws off his clothes. He goes and starts making a speech about how movies are important. And I can't.
And they need to evolve. This is important because because he can see the future too.
Yes, he can,
but But he has a blind spot to that future.
He does because his blind spot is his own talent.
Well, no. I was thinking of the technical blind spot of sound.
Yes, but he also understands and wants to embrace it when that time comes too.
Sure.
But this makes him and Manny kindred spirits in some ways.
Yes.
Right? And they're going to be tied together over that common sensibility. Yeah.
But while Brad Pitt, oh my God, this is so good. While he is giving his little diatribe, what is the last thing he says? Eureka! I am not alone. Because that's what he wants people to feel when they walk into the theater. He wants them to feel less alone. Yeah. And he says, Eureka, I'm not alone. And he just falls off the back of his house down the shingled roof. And you think he's dead, right? And you're like,
too is so good.
He's like, is this the last we'll see of Brad Pitt in this movie? I wouldn't be surprised if it was sold on his face and he dies right here. But he falls into the pool. And he gets up and he's like, I gotta go to bed.
It reminds me of like the less intentional, or more intentional, I am a golden god scene in the Cameron Crowe movie.
Yeah, what is
Oh yeah, Almost Famous.
Almost Famous, thank you. Yeah.
I was gonna say it also sometimes reminded me of, Jason Oliver drunk circa about 2003.
Yeah.
Where he might fall down, pop up, and say, I got to go to bed.
Yep. I've had too much to drink.
It's sleepy time, guys.
It's sleepy time. I don't know about you, but it's sleepy time.
Oh, man. The good old days. But this is, I think, right when the title card drops, and we're fucking 31 minutes.
Yeah.
What happens is,
open.
The title card drops then, but right before that, though, we also get Margot Robbie's celebration in the she's coming out to the sunrise. Yeah, where she talks about riding off into the darkness. She's coming out into the sunrise.
Perfection.
And she's cursing all the people in school that called her ugly and
fuck you, Nana.
Fuck you, Nana. Fuck you, Nana. But yeah, after Brad Pitt's speech, basically, and he's, it's you get hit with, yep, this is Babylon, all right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and it's the beginning of everything that could be good.
Yes.
For most of these folks. Right? Like, last hurrah for Conrad, which we see next, and I don't even know how to describe this. So if anyone else wants to take, Jason, if you want to take the making of this movie and what happens with Manny and all that shit, like it's
oh my God.
Here.
Well, I love this. I love this because, one, I don't know how historically accurate it is, but man, this might be my favorite sequence of the movie.
Really good. It's really good
because it is truly like the pre-sound chaos of movie making. Right? They've got all of these people. Kinescope has got all these people out in the desert, the LA desert, and they are they're making probably like 12 movies on this particular day. There's little sets set up everywhere for all these movies they're making, and none of it matters like how much chaos there is because there's no sound. It's just still images. It's like so economical, right?
Right.
And it's fun to watch and think about the economics of filmmaking pre-sound because it was cheap. It was
film was probably the largest expense, right? The actual film itself.
The actual film itself was probably right. Equipment. But yeah, it's awesome because you've got the big picture that's being shot is Brad Pitt's picture, Conrad's picture, and it's got like hundreds of extras, maybe 1,000 extras. Yeah. The director is this German director played by Spike Jonze, who is so good. Like they just like let Spike Jonze loose in this scene. So, and he's trying to wrangle all these extras, get all these extras wrangled. They're on strike because of poor working conditions, and they're not getting paid enough. And they're all like indigents who have been rounded up.
Yeah, they're all homeless people.
And they send Manny to like negotiate with them. And this is where it's like, this is the scene where he's like, who's this guy? He's the guy they sent to fuck us. He's like, and they're threatening it with violence and starting to chase him. He takes somebody's gun and then gets on a horse and starts shooting the gun in the air to get them to come.
Manuel was great.
Oh God. It's wonderful.
While that's happening to you, Brad Pitt got out of the car and he's like, "What's up, Von Cheeseburger's ass?" Because the director's yelling up there. And then while the homeless guys are chasing Manny, it's just Brad Pitt eating a sandwich on a hill, and you see it all going on in the background. It's so fucking good.
Brad,
and he is so like, gleeful over his guy being so good at this too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forget what he says, but he says
Manuel's great.
Manuel's great. Yes. Like, Manuel's great. Brad Pitt on this day is the perfect representation of alcoholism, because he is so on his game at the beginning of this scene, at the beginning of the day. He gets his pills from the count probably, and he's like ready to go. He's negotiating things. He's oblivious to danger. The spear gets thrown into his tent, and he looks at it like an inch from his head. He looks at it, and he complains to someone about how it's not period authentic. Right?
Yeah, it doesn't look old enough.
Yeah, he's negotiating with some actress to get to be in the movie for the final scene.
Well, he's asking, fantastic.
Yeah, like talking her up, but also like talking her down. Like, no,
you can't do this. This has to be a newcomer.
It's like this is.
But even if you wanted to do it, even if we wanted you, we couldn't afford you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, also he says, no, we need somebody who can handle like Shakespeare.
Yeah, it's like, well, I know you've done Shakespeare. But
yeah, you're right. I think it's Gloria Gaynor that he's talking to.
Okay,
but he's challenging her ability,
yes,
in a way that is non-threatening,
and he gets her basically to work for scale. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. He's like, so use the money. Use the money I just saved you on the big fireworks scene.
Yeah.
The best,
but he's also
awesome. He's negotiating. He's like, he is like rewriting parts of the script.
No, he's seeing the future.
Mm-hmm.
Because he says, hasta la vista, motherfucker, type it. And then it comes back later and it's like, then he says, frankly, Scarlett, you're a cunt.
Yeah.
Type it.
It's awesome. But by the end of the day, and we'll talk about some of the filler scenes, but by the end of the day, he's almost so drunk he can't stand up for the one shot that he's been waiting for that day, that he's been waiting all day for. He's almost too drunk to stand up. But he like dry heaves a little bit, and he gets his final wind, and he makes the beautiful shot, and the butterfly.
It's so
the perfect light, and it's like this picturesque ideal of this is how the magic happens, right?
Yes. Doesn't matter what the chaos is. This is what the magic is.
But somebody else fill in some of the gaps. We got to talk about Nellie here. We got to talk about Manny.
Okay, I'll talk about Nellie if you want to talk about Manny, Geoff.
I can talk about Manny. It's real quick here. Manny he's becoming kind of a utilitarian of sorts, because he fixed the whole thing with the extras, which, by the way, when the extras start actually working, they are actually fighting a war.
Yeah.
And one guy by the end of the day is dead. And it's like, well, he was a drunk. He probably ran into the spear.
Yeah, he ran into it by himself.
Oh my God.
But then,
and then the guy goes, it's a disease.
It's a disease.
Alcoholism is a disease.
That's Lucas Haas. That's doing that scene.
It's a disease.
But then he also he's sent away because those motherfucking horses keep crashing all Baron von Cheeseburger's cameras. He had 10 cameras and they're all smashed. Mm-hmm. It's like, we need a camera. We only have 3 hours, and it's an hour to get in the town to get to the camera place or whatever. And it's like, send Manny. And so Manny goes in. He has no idea what camera he's supposed
he's
to
been given a note.
That's right. He is given a note.
But he doesn't. But the note doesn't say what camera.
Right.
Yeah.
And because the guy asks him, it's like, do you want a 5230 or a 5220 or whatever? And he's like, I don't know what's 2708 or 2709.
Is there a big difference?
And they just laugh.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I don't care which one. I'm going to sit here. You got 30 minutes. And it's like an hour later, the camera comes. He snatches it up, and he is smart because he knows with traffic, he can't get back out there before sundown. And meanwhile, Spike Jonze is crying and sobbing over how beautiful God made this day for him. And he missed the shot and he wasted all the beauty. But then they hear sirens, and it's an ambulance. And Manny has fixed it and saved the movie, and it's a hit. It's big, it's big doings. So that's basically, he's proving himself to be extremely useful. Yeah. And he's connected to the biggest, greatest actor of the era.
Right.
So he is now in the business.
Yeah, he's in with MGM now, for sure. Yep. Plugged in. Yeah.
And so Nellie, she takes over for the 17-year-old who had tits, apparently, because there was going to be a tits scene in the bar, and they cancel it because no tits. But her big breakthrough for her is that she has an ability to cry.
Yeah.
So she goes through the beginning of the scene, right? And she's flirting with all the guys, and all the guys are like, "Oh shit, this woman is hot." Like this, woo. They love her. But then she has to do her crying scene where the woman who saved her from her early homelessness and drug and whatever.
Samara Weaving. Yeah.
Played by Samara Weaving, which, goddamn, that's inspired fucking casting. Right?
For sisters? Yeah.
Susan, when she saw this the first time, she thought they were the same actress. She thought they were both Margot Robbie.
For a second, I thought so too. Yeah. When I first saw it in the theater, I'm like, oh, wait, no, that's Samara Weaving. Yeah.
But it's perfect because it illustrates the way a woman can replace another woman in Hollywood because she just have to look the right way.
Yep.
Yeah.
And be willing to do the thing, right?
Do the thing, whatever the thing is.
Whatever the thing is, yeah.
But she has an uncanny ability to cry on command. She can produce one tear. She can produce two tears. The director becomes infatuated with her, makes her do it like 9 different times. Mm-hmm. And I think this is drilled into our head for a scene much later in the movie, which we'll talk about later when she cries. But it's really like one of my favorite, like Jason, you had said earlier, this whole point of the movie is one of the best parts, like everything that takes place out here. But Margot's part in this is really good. Yeah. But she basically becomes a star overnight because of what she's able to do on that bar crying on command.
Yes. Basically, like that whole sequence, everything that happened on this day at Kinoscope was like, yep, I'm in. Watching this movie, like I was totally claws into this movie. Yeah,
couple things. That director is Olivia Hamilton. That's Damien Chazelle's wife.
Oh, interesting.
In real life?
Yes.
Yeah. Duh. Playing Ruth Adler, which that name sounds familiar too, but I don't know if that's a real person or not.
Who was the female so the director of what was it, like Bar Babes or whatever?
Yeah.
The maids what was the name of that movie? Something the maid something. Anyway.
But Faye is also doing the title cards for this, which she invents the phrase wild child.
She makes her, yeah.
Yeah.
Which it's funny because then she sits back and she's like, because they're watching the movie and she's like, by the way, who's doing the cards for this? Because I can do the cards. But then while she's watching the dailies, basically, she just kind of says, it's like, I think she's seeing it. You think she swings both ways?
Yeah, she swings both ways. Yeah. She definitely has the hots for it.
Yes, and she plays the long game for that too.
Yes, she does. But Margot Robbie is like a perfect starlet in this. Like she's perfect for it. Yeah.
That director is based on Dorothy Arzner. Which is like, she was the only female director working in Hollywood in the 1920s. Like, that is insane. She made a total of 20 films between 1927 and 1943, and launched the careers of Katharine Hepburn, Rosalind Russell, Lucille Ball. Like, wow, right?
Yeah.
Kind of crazy. And I think that, was she the one? No, her family had a restaurant, but there was, I won't get into it. But there's another female director around the same time, maybe a little later, who was sort of famous for having like underground lesbian bars, where lesbians could meet and frequent in Hollywood after it was kind of like supposed to go underground.
Was that Ruth's Chris Steakhouse?
Yes, could have been. That was the origins of Ruth's
Chris
Steakhouse. Yeah. Oh my!
Type it. That's what it is.
Oh man, I love it. But yeah, I mean, Dorothy Arzner was she was a common collaborator with Claire Bell.
There you go.
Yeah. Yep.
So anyway, the so when
they get their shot, then everything happens, right? Like,
it's perfect.
Like everybody's at the top of their game, right?
I mean,
what they want. Manny is like ingratiated to the producers and to Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt like got a shot. Margot Robbie is now going to be a star. Like, everybody is exploding. Yeah.
And who's there on the hill to write about all of it?
Eleanor.
Exactly.
But now I guess the only guy who didn't get what he wanted was the guy who walked into the spear.
Yeah.
I guess you could say he didn't get what he wanted.
I guess he was expendable. Yeah.
It's a disease.
Yeah, he would have been the one getting the camera had he not died. So it's important.
Is exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's important for Manny's story.
Next man up.
Yep. Next Manny.
Next Manny up.
Next Manny up. But there's something else important that happens right after this that Margot Robbie does, or Nellie does, excuse me. She's working on another film with Constance Moore, which is Samara Weaving. And they're kind of having like the cat fight on the stage. Like Nellie keeps changing the blocking and icing her nipples.
Upstaging her and
icing her nipples and all that. And she realizes that Constance is the one whose production company is putting up all the money for the film.
Yeah.
So she gets surgery.
She gets a nose job.
She gets a nose job, so she can't film, which basically drains all the money from Constance Moore's production company and takes her out of business.
Yep.
So now she is the it girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh yeah, it's ruthless.
It is ruthless. That is the kind of things people do to each other in Hollywood, I guess.
More like Ruthless Steakhouse.
Ruthless, but something more.
You missed the whole Ruth Chris Steakhouse conversation.
That's perfect, Geoff. Ruthless Steakhouse.
I'm kind of glad I missed it.
No, I thought it was pretty good.
It was pretty good.
But now we have the more important development coming, right? Conrad hears that there is sound being produced in a movie.
Yeah.
Which this is a perfect joke. It's so sophomoric, but it's so perfect. It is that wink and nod to the audience. What, people really want sound in music in movies, and there's a guy in the shitter just dumping ass.
Yep.
Oh my God. I love it.
And then the other guy goes, yeah, why not?
Yep.
It is a very on the nose, sophomoric, awesome joke.
It's a good fart joke. It really is.
It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the guy who was moments away from winning an Oscar won an Oscar for Best Director.
And then it was taken away from him.
Well, but then won the Oscar for Best Director, was going to have Best Picture, got that taken away, and then he drops ass in his next movie. That's amazing.
That's amazing.
But there's probably
he's a man after my own heart here, guys.
He made First Man in between. But yes, I guess.
Well, fair. Yeah, but still, it's a quick turnaround.
It is.
Wait, is La La Land the movie that someone said incorrectly on stage?
Yep. Moonlight won, but they gave
It was Warren Beatty and who was on stage?
it was Faye Dunaway.
Dunaway,
They were given the best actress envelope instead of best picture.
Yep.
So somebody won. So Margot won Best Actress for this.
No. For La La Land, it was.
Oh yeah, it was
Emma Stone. Yeah,
Yeah, my bad.
And because you can see it if you watch it again, you can see that there's confusion
Totally.
on her face because she saw Emma Stone's name and then saw the movie under it and then just saw, I guess that's it. And then that was the mad scramble behind the scenes at that point.
If you watch the
Somebody
video,
fucked up, and it wasn't Faye Dunaway. You know?
No.
Yeah.
if you watch the video of me trying to piece that together, you'd see the confusion in my face too.
It was great. It was honestly.
It was
chaos.
crazy.
It was
Yeah,
kind
it
of
was.
amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
Because also I think it's Warren Beatty who actually called somebody and it's like, this isn't the right he should have said something before, but he didn't. So there's a little bit on him that the other movie didn't get its moment.
That's a tricky situation, man.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what are you going to do? But
Yeah.
apparently you read the wrong name anyway. So you just go for it.
Oh, yeah. What else was nominated that year? We'll talk about it later. Anyway.
So sound films, film and sound and film.
Yes.
Right. They do the, and I don't know if this is a real thing or if Damien is just doing a call forward to Singing in the Rain. Was that actually filmed like that song in the 20s? It never was, right?
It was a huge hit
Absolutely
in the
was. It was
20s.
a huge hit multiple times in the 20s.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, the Singing in the Rain sequence that they're shooting with Brad Pitt is an actual movie. It was a MGM movie where it was almost like the We Are the World.
Yeah.
Oh, so there's a bunch of
We are
famous
embracing.
people.
Yeah, we're embracing sound in movies, and here it is.
Yeah, they got like every single one of their premier contract actors to participate in that like stupid bobbing, Singing in the Rain sequence. Yeah, it's a real.
That's
movie.
awesome. So there's something cool that happens here. So that like is funny.
It was called Hollywood Review.
Okay, I read that today in the article you sent. My bad.
Yeah.
Conrad doesn't want to do it, but he does it anyways, which I'm sure like in the We Are the World videos, there's a lot like Bob Dylan is like, why the fuck am I here? Like, but while that's going on, Sydney takes a break and he walks up to Manny, and Sydney's the artist, the trumpet player from the beginning of the movie. And Manny asks Sydney what he thinks. And he's like, you really want to know what I think? And Manny's like, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, you have the camera pointed in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And I'm like puzzling, like, oh, does he like discover like the camera going this way and looking at people in a different way? But he just meant you should point it at the band, dumbass.
The band is doing all the work here. There
And
is
he looks at
real
him and you
quick-
can
real
see
quick, too.
that's
we
the
got to go
emotion.
back to New York.
Yeah, I want to go back. We got to go
sorry.
back to New York because Manny is sent to New York to see the premiere of The Jazz Singer, which is causing a lot of hubbub as like the next best thing, right? Which we talked a little bit about with the bathroom scene. And when he goes to New York, he runs into Nellie.
Nellie.
She's there promoting something or just to get away because she's from Jersey and she's kind of like getting out of Hollywood for a minute. And they meet up and they have a conversation. Geoff, what do you want to talk about? Like what they talk about?
Well, really what it's about is like, it's some frustrations about like how they're viewed, or specifically how she's being viewed. And one of the things that she wants to do while she's out there is to go see her mother. Mm-hmm. This is the only time that she is actually human.
Yeah.
In this movie, I think
it's kind of fleeting. Yeah.
Exactly. And fleeting's a word I'm going to use later on something else. And she's like, "Hey, do you want to go with me?" It's like I could really use,
She doesn't say that, but she just doesn't want to come with me. And Manny, of course, is a puppy dog. Will follow her anywhere.
Right. Yep. Well, because really, what indicates that she needs emotional support is that she was dropping him off, and then she's like, "No, actually, wait, you want to go with me?"
Yeah.
And she changes her mind on that. And her mother is basically catatonic.
Yeah, it's a mental institution.
Right.
It's like it's supposedly a nice one, but it looks like
It looks like Arkham Asylum.
yeah,
there.
it's like very brutalist in its design. Yeah.
It's like LA 20 years later. Or 2 years later, excuse me.
Yeah. So then they basically she's like, "Hey, it was great seeing you, and I got to go and do a thing. He's got to go to the premiere." So she's basically like, "Hey, driver, whatever his name was, take him wherever he needs to go," and that's to the Warner's Theater to see.
It's the big premiere in New York, at like the Grand Theater or something. I looked
No,
it
the
up.
Warner's Theater.
Well, yeah, this was the actual premiere in New York of the Jazz Singer, is where he was sent, and he sees the crowd, like, I mean, it's in the middle of the movie and they're like standing up and clapping at the talkie segments of that movie, which is not a fully talkie movie, by the way.
No, it isn't.
It's
But it was the first movie to really like prove the model, right?
Yeah. Before that, there had been movies. I mean, one of them, the original Phantom of the Opera, was one of the movies that actually had synchronized music.
Well, yeah, and somebody
On
makes a
film.
comment about Don Juan. Like Don Juan, which had synchronized sound. It had music. Yeah.
One thing I want to point out about this specific scene, because I think it's important, is that Manny is witnessing like one of the biggest changes in Hollywood history, and he's not even paying attention.
Right.
No.
He's thinking about Nellie.
Yep.
Which comes back later in the movie, kind of in a different way. It's one of those mirror reflection points in that.
Yep.
He's thinking about Nellie, but he's also like, he knows. He's like,
Yes. Once he sees all those people, yeah.
and then
Yeah, because he kind of starts looking around like, what the hell? You know,
Because
he's
you're
not
right.
even really paying attention to the movie.
he's not moved by it. He's moved by the people being moved by it, right?
Which I think is also.
I think it's symbolic of him like losing his connection to his love of movies, right?
Well, I think you could also say that there is something there about how seeing a movie in a full auditorium where a lot of people are reacting changes your opinion about what it is that you're seeing too. It connects you with other people.
Yeah.
Maybe more so than the movie itself. But you can really, it can be a moving thing to be in an audience that is reacting all together, all in the same way.
Well, it's like, in its basest term, it's like watching a comedy and somebody laughs near you.
Yeah.
And you will probably start laughing.
Yeah.
Right. And then you'll buy into the infectious nature of what's going on, not necessarily the joke.
Right.
Yeah.
And
We
it's
see
also
it later.
like,
We see it later in Conrad, right, where his film flops and somebody starts sniggering about his dialogue, and then it snowballs, right?
yep.
Yeah.
Well, and also, I mean, it's why people like to go see, concerts, right? You have a shared connection
Yep.
with something.
We're all here for the same thing.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes. And that can be more powerful than any movie,
Yep.
anything that you go and actually witness.
And then he goes and he gets on the phone and he says, "This is going to change everything." End of Act 1. It's like, this is a perfect 3-act movie, by the way.
Yeah.
Like almost to the hour. It's awesome.
Yep. And this is when we get back, Chuck, to where you were, where, it's now time to embrace sound. However, before we get to that, there's the funniest sequence in the whole movie.
That's pretty funny.
It's good. Yes.
Because
This is Nellie. Go ahead then, Geoff.
So she's making a movie, and it's the infancy of this new technology where it is hell. Because you can't have air conditioning on because the fans, the air, too much noise. You can't even have the camera out so you're in a sweat box shooting through that. You can't, there is no boom mic guy. It's just a stationary mic that's hanging down from the ceiling. Everybody is sweaty. Everybody is irritated. You can't come in if you open the goddamn door.
Yeah. You got to have rubber soles on your feet.
Max is going to rip your fucking head off. But anyway, so, you know, it's take after take after take. Every little thing that can go wrong does go wrong. First, she speaks too loudly. Second, she misses her mark. She wants to move the mark, and the guy's like, sure, we can move the mark, but we got to reset the sound.
If you have a half an hour.
Yeah, and then they have to the guy in the sweatbox with the camera is like dying, literally. And they're like, shut the fuck up and get back in there. It's just everything that can go wrong goes wrong. And I mean, at one point somebody comes in not realizing that it's like one of the studio heads, and they're about to go off on it. It's like, but he's there to witness all of this go like just explode. And PJ Byrne as Max has one of the greatest flip outs in film history. It's insane.
I will shit on you. I will shit in your mouth.
I promise you.
I mean, he's throwing anti-Semitic shit out.
Oh my
he is
God,
everything it's just everything is turned up to 20.
Oh my God.
One of my favorite jokes in this, and I think it's a joke unless I'm misunderstanding, because there's that whole "it's so quiet you can hear a pin drop" idiom. Right. But one of the things that was causing sound was the fact that the director had a pin in her ankle from surgery.
Yes.
That has to be like a joke about a pin drop, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Oh, I didn't think about that, but yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's too good. And it's almost like if you're not thinking, you'll miss it.
Oh my God, that's great. Yeah.
But yeah, as each take goes on, you can see how much Margot Robbie is sweating because they make a big part of showing her feet walk in to hit her mark. And I mean, she is soaked like all the way from head to toe. It's insane.
Like she was singing in the rain.
Yes, absolutely. And she gets, they finally get it on like the 10th take or something. And they're so excited until they can't get the camera guy to respond if he's checked the gate. And that's because he's fucking literally dead.
Literally dead.
So, when's the last time you watched Singing in the Rain? Or have you seen it?
Never. I mean, I saw it many, many years ago.
But watch it. Because this scene in that movie is so different, but funny in other ways. Because the whole problem is with the Margot Robbie character, right? She can't figure out how to speak into the microphone. They have the microphone hidden in a plant in front of her, but she keeps moving her head like I'm doing right now, and it's punctuating the sound.
Good representation.
Right? Yeah.
I deal with that every time we record, Jason.
I'm sorry. So
I see Chuck leaning into it. You know, I see one guy keep moving his head every time. Yeah. Anyway.
So it's this funny scene where they're trying to get her. Not only are they dealing with the fact that she's got like a screechy voice, but they can't get her to speak into the microphone. So they keep moving the microphone. They get it to the point where they have it like in her brassiere, essentially, or on her shoulder to get better sound. Oh my God, it's funny. And then what you get though is the payoff, which this movie doesn't give us. You get the payoff of they show the movie that they make, right?
Right.
There's a small premiere of it where it's like a very limited premiere of it, and they show the movie. And you see all of the sound fuck ups, right? and you also see the Gene Kelly character. There's a whole moment. It's like, well, I don't want to say this dialogue. This is too flowery. I just want to say what I normally say. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. Right? And so he says that in the scene. And so they show the movie to a test audience. And it's just a laugh riot, right? And it's a complete disaster of a test screening. And it's like they realize they need to fix the movie. So it's like I like what they did, what Damien Chazelle did with that specific sequence. But I love in Singing in the Rain that you get to see an audience react to the complete disaster, right? It's just really funny.
And that's something else. Oh, go ahead, Chuck.
I was just going to ask you, watch that because you knew this had relationship to. Okay.
I bought the 4K not that long ago because I just genuinely love that movie, and I was like, perfect time to watch it. Yep.
Got it.
What's kind of great is that a lot of people think that if a movie's from the 30s, 40s, or 50s, that it's great. And I don't know if that's real. I mean, like, I don't know what kind of rate, like what kind of ratio, like obviously we get a lot of junk today because everything's got to have content somewhere. Right.
Yeah.
But like, only the great stuff survived.
That's what I was going to say. There's a reason for that.
There's always been junk. In the silent era, there was junk. Yeah.
Yeah.
The good stuff does survive, and that's why people think all of it was good.
Yeah.
They'll say the same thing about the 2000s eventually.
All
those movies were good.
Yeah. Right. And it's like, have you seen Resident Evil? I don't think so. But I mean, like, that's why I kind of hope that they never find like London After Midnight, because that's such a pedestal of like lost horror and Lon Chaney and all of that. And it's like, I hope they don't find it because we can be disappointed by it.
It might be better as a mystery. Yeah.
It might be better as this thing that we think is going to be great. Yeah.
It's kind of like that. It's kind of like the homily in Conclave.
Yeah.
Like, which is, I'm sorry, total aside, but it's like that's the best description of faith I've ever heard ever in my life was in Conclave, which stay tuned in a few weeks. We'll be doing our best stuff. Yeah. And
I'm also going to go ahead and say that if I was a voting member of the Academy, it gets best adapted screenplay from.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway. So now we're back to Manny, like, really proving himself to be great, which is what you were talking about, Chuck, where he's talking to Sydney, and Sydney's like, no, you got to point the camera the other direction. Smash cut to one of those shorts, which was based on those old, what was it, Duke Ellington, and Armstrong. Yeah, Louis Armstrong.
Yeah, Louis Armstrong, and
and that becomes a big hit. So much so
that he gets a call from Flea.
Yep, and
not a
he's
call.
like,
I mean, it's back then a call would have been showing up in person, right?
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, yes.
Yes.
He was called upon by Flea.
But I don't know if anyone would know that that's what I'm trying to say.
Actually, yes.
But yeah, and the whole idea there is they want to bring him back to Kinoscope to be the sound boss. I can't remember what.
The president of sound.
Yeah. President of sound. Yeah. But along with that, there's a Nelly problem. She's been gambling. She has a frog voice or whatever they say.
Sounds like a donkey. Yeah.
Sounds like a donkey. So something needs to happen with Nelly. So it's like a twofold thing. Like Manny has hit it big, so he would be useful to the studio. But they also know to get him there, they have to appeal to his love of Nelly.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the Nelly problem, which,
this is this right at the same time? Was he offered that right after he had to tell Sydney that he has to wear the shoe polish?
I think that's later.
That's later.
It is later. Okay.
Because he brings Sydney to Kinoscope.
Oh, that's right. I think that was part of the whole deal was like, you let me bring. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Pay him whatever he wants. And they have the scene with him getting the car and the house and all that. Yeah.
Which that, I mean, I guess we can kind of talk about that since it came up, since we're kind of in that portion of the interactions there. That's the one thing I say, that his ability to be political when dealing with all these different types of people and always being the one that's like, well, Manny's got to deliver this. He's likable. Everybody likes Manny. So have him make the decisions on how to deliver news. And when he gets the news that Sydney's a different shade of black from the rest of his band, we can't sell that to the South.
Right.
To which, because they'll think it's mixed, right? They'll think somebody is more black or that somebody is Hispanic.
It's a white person with black people, and that's illegal in the South, or at least to the point where it's not an image that they want
Right.
will sell. Yeah.
Right. And so basically it's like, yeah, you got to wear black shoe polish, which Louis Armstrong had to do.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
And it's the type of blackface, which is so weird to say because, I mean, obviously, Giovanna Depo is a black guy, but it looks like straight up
Minstrel.
cartoonist minstrel show. I mean, it is.
And it's something people point to nowadays when white people do, saying they did it too.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my God, you have zero fucking awareness.
Understanding. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's fucked. So fucked.
I mean, this is like literally like the cartoonish drawings of this type of thing. I mean, it's bad. It's bad. And it makes him quit on the spot basically after he does his film.
Yeah, because Manny basically tells him like, look, the movie won't get made. These musicians won't get paid. Manny's like kind of like shit here, but at the same time, he's always a pragmatist, right?
Right.
He's telling him exactly what's at stake. Now he's not threatening him, but he's telling him what's at stake.
Well, I mean, saying that, well, these guys aren't going to they're not going to be able to put food on the table of their families. That's low, man.
But Manny has no control over that. He has no control over that. Like if he did, then yes, he's a shit heel, right?
Right.
And he is kind of a shit heel because he perpetuates this and he doesn't stand up for them. But he's also like from Mexico.
That's what I was going to say. He has his own stigma that he can't take too much attention on, right? Or he's going to have problems. There's a couple things that
politically he has very little leverage.
And this is also why I think he is part of the audience too, because the audience sometimes is unknowingly complicit in how things go because they vote with their dollars, right?
Right. They're entertained by this stuff.
And they may not be thinking about they may not be thinking about the broader idea of the problem behind it, but they are perpetuating it by paying for the ticket.
Manny's more complicit though, because I think he does know. It feels like he does know.
He absolutely knows. He's uncomfortable doing it.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad. I'm glad at least for that.
Yeah.
I'd rather him be
uncomfortably
about it than just be oblivious to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
There is one thing that we need to talk about before this unraveling, because that part with Sydney is like the unraveling of everybody, right?
Sure. Yeah.
They go to a party is it Conrad's house or is it at Nellie's house? I don't know whose house it is, but they're at a party and Nellie is in the bathroom. And thank God I had subtitles on because I didn't hear this person talking.
Yeah. I put subtitles on for this.
I mean, I heard it in the theater, and I think I remember what was. I don't know if I heard it as well this time, but I do remember it from the first two watches. But yeah, I know what you're about to say.
Yeah, so someone is in the other room talking about how the Nellie has a donkey voice, and her time is coming up soon, and her father's her manager, and he's worse than her. Which she starts crying and says, "Don't be a baby about it." And instead of being a baby about it, she decides to be a machismo asshole to her father, who is taking advantage of her. I'm pretty sure he's using her name for a fucking restaurant.
Well, he spends all of her money. Yeah. And she becomes,
he's bad at it. Like she's,
because she says, what else is my dad supposed to do?
He can't spell, he can't spell, he can't add. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But this is Eric Roberts, by the way, which goes to show you that Eric Roberts is fantastic in everything he does.
Dude, I know, right?
I mean, he is in shit movies and he's great, and he is in great movies and he's great.
It's honestly inspired casting here. It really is. Yeah.
Because he's always got the same story. He fought a snake once.
My God, this is so good.
A snake's getting fought. A snake's getting fought.
So when she shows up because she went gambling with the USC football team.
Oh,
and
so this is another Hollywood rumor that Clara Bow would host the USC football team for parties at her house on Saturday nights.
Yeah.
And they would play touch football in her front lawn. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
But they, and this is when she shows, because, I think it's at Conrad's house.
I think so too, but I wasn't
Yes.
sure. It's hard to tell
This
for
is
sure.
Conrad. This is Conrad's house.
And I
Okay,
think
thank
this is when we are met. We meet his soon to be third
or
wife,
fourth wife, yeah.
because he also gets shot by his Hungarian wife or wherever she's from. Olga. But this wife is from Broadway, and she thinks film is a lesser
art. Yeah.
Yeah, lower art. To which he's trying to argue against it, basically saying that no, he doesn't think so. And of course, we know in time that is true. It's going to shake that reputation. But as he's trying to defend it, in comes Nellie, who says, what's she say, Jason?
Wait. It says, "Party time, Sparkle Cox." Because she's holding like sparklers.
Yeah, and she's riding the shoulders.
Riding one of the shoulders of one of the USC football players who all have like their chest painted like Nellie's toy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's so funny.
Because part of them losing is they have to be her slaves.
Oh my god, it's so funny.
And she's only wearing like overalls.
She's wearing overalls with nothing else underneath.
Nothing else underneath. Yeah. So I think she was actually playing strip poker.
Yeah, it could very well be. And then she walks right up to Conrad. She's like, "Oh, I wanted to fuck you for years," right in front of his wife.
And she's like, "I wouldn't really fuck him, but I would."
Oh my god, this whole sequence is insane. Like it's like kind of Nellie's realization that it's the end for her.
She doesn't belong with this group.
She doesn't belong anymore. Like she comes in with the highest of high and she leaves with the lowest of low, right?
Well, as many times also as she's crossed paths with Jack Conrad, they've never interacted until this moment.
Right.
So that means that, it's like she is a lesser star. She may be a star. She may be on the magazine, on the covers of the magazines, but she's not Jack Conrad.
And it's very apparent that she's going to be more ephemeral in this history of Hollywood than he, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, but she like comes out of that bathroom after she's been insulted by these people talking about her behind her back, and she challenges her dad, Eric Roberts. Says like, "Okay, you're telling the snake story again? I want you to fight a snake. Let's go find a snake. You're gonna fight it." He's like, "Okay, all right." Let's go fight a snake.
The reason why that she's in the bathroom is she's embarrassed a little bit by Lady Faye, who performs a song, and they say, as part of her, because as Sydney puts it, as part of the show, she will pick somebody to dance with.
Yeah.
And she is zeroed right in. Yeah,
because we've seen that Lady Faye has a thing for her.
Yeah, and so years have passed, and she's
picked her moment. Yeah,
yeah, and so they kind of have a moment where she then kisses her, but then it gets interrupted by one of the USC guys, basically barging in between them and jumping into the pool,
doing a cannonball, of course. Yeah,
of course. Yeah. And she then goes to collect herself in the bathroom, and she kind of has a laugh about it, and that's when she hears the guys say she's done, basically.
Right. Yeah, that is important. So then she challenges her father to a snake fight. and Brad Pitt is all about it. Conrad is all about it. And his new wife is not. His Broadway actress wife is not.
In a way, I feel like this is Jack trying to feel young again. Right? Because he's kind of an elder statesman at this party.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, Jack, who would turn down a chance to see a snake fight?
Well, I fucking would. I'd go for it. Like, let's go.
See it. I'd like, all right. This guy's going to fight a snake. All right, let's see it.
Meanwhile, also Lucas Haas has a toilet seat around his fucking shoulders.
Yeah, because he's been crying about another
and
woman.
He's trying to drown himself in the toilet.
And Conrad's wife has been trying to keep him from drinking, Conrad from drinking, but Conrad has been drinking tequila. Like, there's that moment where, is it Manny who goes up to him? He's like, "What would you like?" And he was like, "I would like a tequila." And his wife's like, water, honey.
Water. Yeah.
And then there's a look between him and Manny, and it's so good. And Manny knows, it's like, I'm bringing him tequila.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the perfect drink to have instead of water, right?
Yeah.
Or vodka, like a clear alcohol.
And it's not Manny though; it's somebody else. But anyway, because Manny's not there, he's at Kinescope when this happens. But anyway, they all go driving out to the desert, and I love the scene.
No, Manny's there. Manny's there.
Is he there?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he gets knocked
you're
out when he tries to save her.
Yes.
She
you're
punches him
right.
out.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, they go driving out to the desert and they find a rattlesnake.
Oh my God.
And Eric Roberts, Nellie's dad, goes out there and he's like, I'm going to fight a snake. And I don't know what the hell he's talking about. He's just like,
He's like,
drunk.
I got to start in the pose of the mongoose.
Yes. He's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Yeah.
That's so good.
But
But
then
eventually,
he starts babbling nonsense because he's so hammered. Yeah.
yes. And then he just passes out.
Yep.
And Nellie gets pissed off and she's like, I'm going to see somebody fight a fucking snake. Somebody go fight.
By a snake. Yeah.
But eventually she's like, fine, I'll go fight a snake. And she walks right out there. She grabs it by the neck and she's like, look how easy this is. And then the snake just fucking latches onto her throat.
Oh my God.
And then she starts screaming and running around.
It's hilarity. So you have Conrad just standing there, like taking it all in. I don't know what the fuck he's thinking about, but he's just kind of
He's a blank face, just watching.
I'll tell you what it is. This is what I think anyway. I think that he's watching it all, and he's realizing that in this moment in time, his wife is right. We are a lower art form. We haven't figured out. We're a fucking bunch of mess. We're a mess, right? And he's watching. He's surveying this chaos, and he's surveying the fact that all of my life has led up to this. Like, wow. It's not anything admirable.
I mean, that's fair, but also his wife is there too.
Yeah, but she's like reacting, right?
Because she starts screaming and running away too.
Yeah.
Well, no, she's at the car. She's yelling at Conrad, who's like zoned out.
She's the one that like breaks him out of his like contemplation. Yeah.
One of my favorite things Brad Pitt
more
does
into
in
the
this.
breach.
Once more into the beach, dear friends. And then he runs, and you're like, it's like Hollywood Brad Pitt, right? You're like, he's going to save the day. He's going to take that fucking snake and crush it or something. But he gets hit by a car.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's perfect. It's perfect. It's like the hero of the movies is worthless in real life, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I've wanted to make a movie about that for so long, right? With like washed up action stars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. Any man who has tried to save Nellie, Manny being one, he gets knocked out by her. Conrad being the other, he gets hit by a car. And then Lady Faye is like, oh, fuck it. She grabs a hatchet or a knife or whatever the hell
She has a little pocket knife. Yeah.
Yeah. And she walks out there. She cuts the snake's head off. The body falls to the ground. She rips it out of her neck, and then she sucks the poison out of her. And everyone's just watching like, oh my fucking God, this woman is amazing. Right?
Like, without anti-venom, that Margot Robbie survives that. Nellie
probably not. I thought she was dead. That's another moment in this movie where I'm like, oh, we just lost another lead.
Yeah.
But she sucks the venom out, then she gets liquor in her mouth from the flask she carries, and then pours it on Margot Robbie's neck, and she shoots up, kind of Pulp Fiction-y, like Uma Thurman, basically.
Totally.
And then she kisses Lady Faye, and it's kind of like the circle from the beginning of the party has been complete.
Yeah.
But you don't know for a while that Nellie actually didn't go to the hospital or survive or whatever. Like,
yeah, we don't really know.
You don't see her for a bit.
Yeah.
But
what
now
do we see next?
From this point on, it's all like falling apart of Hollywood. Right,
or at least
this group.
It's the falling apart of this version of Hollywood. Yes.
Yeah. Nellie has to be rehabilitated.
Yep.
Go ahead.
No, and yeah. So
well, let's hold on a sec. We gotta talk about the proper ending to Act 2 because, Does
This
Nellie
isn't it?
Well, no, because I think the proper ending to Act 2 is after Jane Marsh and Brad Pitt have their scene together.
That's coming up.
Yeah.
It's Gene Smart, not Gene Marsh.
Did I say Gene Smart? No.
Yeah, you said Gene Marsh.
Oh, jeez. Okay. Anyway. Because
because this is when Conrad starts making talkies, but so they go to this party because Gene Smart. So Eleanor helps Nellie talk.
No, yeah, you're right. Chuck,
proper.
Sorry.
Yeah. So because the end of Act 2 is right after the party with
the William Randolph Hearst party. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And really, the beginning of Act 3, I would say, is more that scene where Brad Pitt tries to figure out why
they laugh.
Eleanor wrote the article she did, because really the end of Act 2 is more is the party and it's the death of Lucas Haas.
I don't know. To me, it's like when Gene Smart says your time today is over, but you'll spend eternity.
Oh wait! I've got that whole thing. That
is
monologue.
That's the end of Act 2. That's the end of Act 2.
That's fair. Anyway, let's get to the party. Let's get to Nellie's rehabilitation, because part of why Manny is hired at Kinescope is to wrangle her and to make her into a proper star. And so he asks Eleanor to basically help with this. And Eleanor, this is a little bit of your My Fair Lady. There's a little bit of this in Singing in the Rain.
Oh, it's absolutely in Singing in the Rain. Yeah.
So, they like talking with round tones and it's trying to sound more educated and less like, a New Jersey, beach rat, basically. It's like, dang. Well, I mean, but that's the way that she's perceived, right? She's, she's perceived as a lower class because she has an accent that nobody else has.
Yep. Right.
And so they even make her over into like wearing a dress because most of the movie she's barely dressed.
One scene all she's wearing is overalls.
Yeah, exactly. So they put her into a gown and, they try to make her look like this kind of polished Hollywood star. And
Manny has to fire Faye because she brings a bad image, because there's possible relationship between the two.
Yes.
Most people would not agree with.
Right.
Which gets Faye fired from Kinoscope.
Right.
Yeah.
And
so there's a cleaning of the house happening. Yep.
Yes. Yep. And so because you can tell that the days of the code are coming, and it's going to be whitewashed and super duper sterilized here very soon. And they end. This is also Brad Pitt's been in these talkies. They're not going over well. He doesn't know that it's not going. He doesn't know how people are reacting to it. But they all go to this party, and people keep coming up to Jack, and it's like, hang in there, Jack. You'll get him next time. And he's like, what are you talking about? And they never say anything to him. But multiple people come up. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, Jack, or whatever.
Yeah, and he's like, well, somebody tell me what the fuck is going on, and then he leaves.
Yeah, because he then also says, well, I guess my newest movie wasn't a hit. And one guy says, well, they'll give you another chance. He's like, well, of course they will. What do you mean?
It's what do you mean they'll give me another chance?
Yeah.
At the same time, you have Nellie talking to whoever's putting on the party, and they keep egging her on to tell a joke, and she's supposed to be prim and proper. So Eleanor keeps like cutting in and saying, no, she doesn't like to tell jokes. She likes to listen to them.
Yeah.
And while that's happening, Sydney is kind of getting, I don't know what you call what's happening to Sydney, but the white people are doing their thing.
It's very classic, like kind of faux liberal white. Which is oh, I think it's so great that you people are getting a movie in so many words, right? Or that your music is doing so well. And it's like
bridging the gap between this and that. And Sydney's just very uncomfortable. He's like, I just make a movie or making music.
Yeah, and
like, I don't want any part of this conversation.
I don't remember exactly what it is that they say, and he's like, "And there's my cue to leave."
Yes, yes.
But yeah, it's that kind of whitey faux.
So they're all getting broken down. They're all getting broken down by this new proper Hollywood, right?
Yeah.
Like this new proper Hollywood is, and these people are outcasts. Like what they were born into is dead and gone. Yeah. They don't fit here. And then finally it comes to a boiling point with Nellie where she's like, okay, I'll tell a fucking joke.
Oh, and it's a great joke.
The joke sucks, but the punchline of her pulling the rabbit off the lady's neck is fucking hysterical.
Sure. But it's the joke that Eddie Murphy tells in Rob.
Yes.
And yeah, it's
does shit get stuck to your fur when the bear sees the rabbit?
Yeah.
Like, no. So he picks him up and wipes his ass with him.
Right. And it's, and she grabs the lady's, fur, whatever that is.
She says it's a rabbit, but I think it's a fox.
Whatever it is. Yeah. But then she starts like acting like a complete and total mongrel and starts eating everything.
Yeah. She's like, do you want to see what the Jersey animal would do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But while she's doing that, she's saying, you people are no better than me.
Yes.
Like, you are no better than me. And she's right in a lot of ways, right? Like
they hide their animalistic instincts behind propriety. Right.
Yeah, and they hide their foibles, in some sort of weird ass.
Out their underage prostitutes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, I mean, she's like, you're no better than me.
Just because you show this well in public doesn't mean you are
exactly
this.
Yep.
Exactly right. She's like, I'm showing you who you are by being this right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is, I think, is also pretty good from Chazelle as a young person in Hollywood who I'm sure has had the door slammed in his face many times over. It's you guys, it's like, you're going to turn this down? Really? Saying you're going to make that? Or,
This is also like the kind of stuff you put in your movie that gets you, like, it gets a lot of people that aren't going to want to take meetings with you. Yeah.
You exposed us.
He did get he maybe spent a little bit of his good faith from La La Land, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But anyway, so she's storming out and her tummy starts rumbling. And in another pretty good sophomoric moment, she just goes back in and just heaves all over the place.
So many bodily fluids on this movie.
Oh my God.
Every bodily fluid, I think. Yeah.
And the guy walks up to her and is like, you are puking on my rug. And she pukes on him.
The rug that William Randolph Hearst was so proud of earlier.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it pukes on him. Yeah. I mean, this movie has a scene where someone pukes on William Randolph Hearst. That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
That's almost cathartic.
And we need somebody to puke on Rupert Murdoch.
Yeah, or Elon Musk.
Oh, I sign up for that. I'll take that. Anyway, so and basically this is the end of Nellie's career at this point.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You think?
Yeah. But but then we have Jack Conrad going to the screening of his movie, and this is the big dramatic moment, and they're all like laughing at him.
Yeah.
And he then, in knowing that, plus seeing that Eleanor had written the article, is he done for, basically?
Because Thalberg won't take his calls. Yeah.
Right. And he can only get, he hasn't been offered the shit movie yet to bail out Irving Thalberg yet. But he is, he's basically washed up and he wants to know why.
Yeah.
Why did she write this? Why did they laugh? Why am I washed up? And this is when she basically puts it to him straight that, there is no reason. You never know when that's going to really happen. It happens though. And, what was great once upon a time will pass into, being a joke or being obscure later on. However, and this is when she delivers what I think is the greatest monologue of the past, many, many years.
Yes.
I've got it all here if you want it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. In 100 years, when you and I are both long gone, anytime someone threads a frame of yours through a sprocket, you will be alive again. You see what that means? One day, every person on every film shot this year will be dead. And one day, all those films will be pulled from the vaults and all their ghosts will dine together and adventure together, go to the jungle, to war together. A child born in 50 years will stumble across your image flickering on a screen and feel he knows you like a friend. Though you breathed your last before he breathed his first, you've been given a gift. Be grateful. Your time today is through, but you'll spend eternity with angels and ghosts.
That's perfect.
Yeah. It's an amazing piece of anything that.
It's what Manny says at the beginning of the movie in a very well thought out and articulated way.
Yes.
It's also like such a wonderful reasoning for film preservation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The fact that so many, what do they say? 60% of all of the silent films that were shot are lost. They're just
I would say it's probably more than that.
maybe even more.
Yeah, because of the fire that happened.
Yeah, well, even before that, they weren't preserved. There was
right.
Yeah,
it was lower art form, right? It was tossed away.
They were trashed. They were thrown away. Yeah.
And that's as wonderful as that speech is, it's not even the most impactful thing in the scene. It's when Brad Pitt walks away and he's he has his back to her and he goes, "Thank you for that."
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And there's a lot of ambiguity in how he says it.
Yep.
It's almost I can relate it to my life. I said something when I was angry that I didn't mean, but later realized that it was the truth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You say it and he wasn't being rude or mean. He just said something because he needed to say something. And then later on, that he's taken what she said to heart.
Yeah. It
for better or worse.
It was the thing he needed to hear. And he didn't want to hear it, but he knows that it's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just don't know how genuine he was in the moment, but now in the future, I know he's genuine about it, if that makes sense. I don't know how to articulate that, what I'm saying. It's really good. That's
the end of Act 2.
Yes, and that's the movie, though. That is that is the movie. It's everything that they've been talking about in a chaotic way.
Uh-huh.
The whole movie put into a concise 30-second thing. This is what everyone's been doing for all this time, right?
Right. Because she also is the one that's also before that. That's when she says, it's he calls her a cockroach. And he's like, well, do you know why the cockroaches always survive the fire?
Yep.
They know
you think
their
the
place
house needs you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's always something only an observer can do.
Yeah.
Can take the whole picture and give it to you because when you're in it, you can't see everything.
When you're adored, you don't see the next. You don't see what's coming next. Yeah.
You don't see the forest for the trees or whatever saying.
Yeah. Well, using the analogy that they did, he never saw the fire around him.
See the fire.
He didn't he
thought he could survive the fire.
Right. Yep. And the thing is that Nellie Leroy was the fire.
Yeah.
And she knew that she will burn out.
Yeah.
And she accepted that. He was the person inside the building who's like, well, I'll just move to another building. I'll
he
move
was
to
getting
sound.
buckets or trying to get buckets of water.
Or trying to get buckets. Yeah,
I'll
whatever.
try to act. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So
basically, he becomes Cameron Mitchell in this movie.
I mean, I don't know.
He tries to
Adapt.
have a career doing shit movies, and maybe he's the wrong example. Maybe like Donald Pleasance or something is a better one. But anyway, but yeah, Act 3 I think is where critically a lot of the problems start to creep into this movie. Would you agree, Geoff?
Yes. But there is something, but this is where reality comes crashing in, though, too, right? Because Nellie suddenly reappears because she's desperate for help from Manny.
Yeah, we thought maybe she was dead. Who knew?
Yeah, who knew? She stomped off after puking on William Randolph Hearst.
Yeah.
You know, if that's how her story ended, she went out on top. But she comes in, she's like, I owe $85,000. I don't have that money. My dad lost it all, basically, or has tied it up. One or the other. I think he lost it all, was what the inference was.
She doesn't have it. Doesn't matter.
She doesn't have it. It doesn't matter. She doesn't have $85,000.
Nope. I mean, she's a gambler, so
I mean, she's addicted to gambling and gambling with people she shouldn't. If you know, so and she's like, I owe James McKay $85,000 and I don't have it. I need your help. You know, you're always there for me, Manny. And at this point, Manny has an explosion on her, basically saying, you've ruined my life. All this time that I've loved you, you ruined my life, basically.
Yeah.
And this is when he sees her not as the character he had built up and that he fell in love with when she crashed in on the party, but as the person that she is, which is a train wreck. And it's kind of sad, right? Because it's like his life is now spiraling because he's the guy who was in charge of wrangling her in, and he couldn't do that.
right.
So he's got a very limited, I think he's got a limited lease on his position in Hollywood too.
Yeah.
And it's all due to her, to a certain extent. Some of it is his fault, obviously, but like he ties it to her, I guess. And but he can't really let her down. He kind of has he kind of remembers her as the person that she was when he first met her. And you know, he decides that, okay, he'll see what he can do. Now, meanwhile, she doesn't really change. She continues to rail.
She hides in his house and does drugs.
Yeah. And she comes up with get rich quick schemes to get her star back, even though everybody knows it's gone. You know, it's like, well, they do, you know, it's like, I'm sure I can dance. I'm sure I can sing, you know, and it's like, no, he talks to the Count, this guy who's always around on set, handing out pills, uppers, whatever you need. And he's like, hey, can you get $85,000? He's like, yeah. And he calls and he's like, I got it. We can go and deliver the money. And I'll admit, the first time I saw him, I was like, really? It's like, did he just steal that money? What?
Right. Yeah.
It's like, it is well kept what the scheme actually is, because eventually they go to the gangster's house and the Count's like, he's like, how did you get this money? He's like, oh, from the prop guy. Oh, it's the prop guy's money? No. It's like
it's prop money.
It's prop money, and it's like everybody's trying to catch up to the plan at the same time.
Yeah, it's so good. And you have Tobey Maguire being a complete fucking pasty lunatic.
Completely insane. It's wonderful.
I mean,
It's one of those against type moments that you're just like enjoying so much. And I know you don't love this.
As the heavies, he keeps hawking loogies.
Yeah, and he's like the fun guy from My Name Is Earl. So everyone in this scene that is
against type. Yeah,
is against type. I think it's good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I have no qualms about the way it's shot, about the acting, about what is going on. It's the only part of the movie that I say, if you had to cut anything, it's this.
I don't think you can.
Or at least, you can't really
defend it. Give me an attempt to defend it.
I'd like one too,
because I think I have a couple good reasons why it's there. First of all,
I know why it's there, and I know that you can't just excise it completely. But I feel like it's like one more rewrite could have.
Why is it there?
All right. So obviously the narrative reason why it's there is because our main characters have to hit their lowest lows, right?
Right.
Narratively, that's the reason, but it doesn't have to be written this way. Why I think it's written this way is because we have, throughout the course of this movie, hit almost every major film genre.
That's why it's there, yeah.
And it's there to represent horror and action. Because that's exactly what we get. Yeah. We've had comedy, we've had drama, we've had musical. We haven't had horror and action, right?
Well, I would say the filming of Brad Pitt's movie is action. Sure, this is more horror thriller.
This is more horror, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, but my point stands.
Yes.
And I think Chazelle is trying to represent the major genres of the time within this movie, and horror is where it's a perfect third act theme, right?
Yes, and while I agree with that. Go ahead with the other one.
My other one is that think about what was happening in 1932 with exploitation films. We had a big movie, a really big one with Tom Browning's Freaks, right? In 1932, that movie came out. That is very much represented here. Mm-hmm. There is this idea of the death of vaudeville. There's the death of the sideshow, right? Like, talkie movies have started to truly kind of like cannibalize all other form of entertainment. Like the sideshow freak show is dying a death, and it's represented here as just that. But it's also represented here as the possible way to revitalize the cinema, right? Like, he's a star, right? The guy who's the geek, who's biting off rat heads, which Toby says, and it's amazing because, I mean, yes, those were the stars.
You either are a star or you aren't. So this is my point about this, is that it's the beginning of the movie again.
Exactly.
It's the beginning of the movie again, but it's showing what Hollywood has become, the excess and the beauty and all the great things about Hollywood. Like, even My Girl's Pussy plays in the scene. Like, if you're not aware that they're telling you what has happened to Hollywood and the excess and all the beauty, it's underground now. It's the asshole of Los Angeles.
It's the asshole of Los Angeles. Yep.
Like, I think it's perfect. I understand not liking it, but I think it's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I think my biggest issue is that I'm always tired by this part of the movie.
Even the alligator is the elephant.
Yeah,
right? Like, it's
yeah. I mean, I agree with both of you on that. And in fact, Jason, I think one time you and I were having a conversation about how I think that the reason why this movie is almost purposely messy is that if you ask most people what their favorite, like, what are your favorite 10 movies ever made? They're going to shotgun blast you with all these different ideas and genres. If they, and like, I know some people don't like some genres over other, but, or if you talk to them about, like, what are some of your favorite moments from movies? It's going to be all these diverse ideas that are not always going to be, particularly with like the general population, they're not always going to be cohesive switching from one scene to the other or whatever. But I just always think it's like at this point, I do agree with what both of you are saying. I think just personally, I'm worn out by this point.
Yeah.
And this is the one scene where it's like, I'm just not up for it as much.
I get you. It doesn't drag for me, but I get you. Like today I was expecting it to be longer when I watched it, like this part of the movie.
It really
actually
isn't.
pretty
It really
quick.
isn't.
Yeah. Because that's a little itty bitty like horror moment.
There's that
and then
tension with the money. And
and
Oh,
then
so good.
the thriller kicks in after they escape.
Yeah.
So this is where you get into almost like a Hitchcockian thriller.
Yeah.
Because they have to now fucking split.
They have to run. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he takes, he goes and picks up Nellie, which Nellie is not being helpful at fucking all.
Nellie is at this point, she's checked out, man. Like she's just like relying on the last dregs of anyone who cares about her, right? She's pretty frustrating at this point.
Yeah. Because like he is trying to tell her, we're going to fucking die if you don't shut the fuck up and get in the car. And she's like,
care.
Yeah. And it's like, and she, and this is again that
Manny is still fighting. His pragmatism, his ambition, fuck ambition at this point. His pragmatism has taken over, and something that Nellie has never had. Right.
And the thing is that she is like, she kind of does snap out of this shortly, but she kind of doesn't care who she brings down with her.
No.
And that is toxic person. But this is what he does so well, is having two people who have no business being together, being thrust together, and having something of a romance, even if it's not, even if mostly
has this ideal in his head. He's still clinging to that feeling he had when he first met her.
I can fix her.
Yeah, it is absolutely part of that, right? He thinks that love conquers all. He's an idealist.
Yep.
And he's an idealist at the end of the movie. It's like it reaffirms him. Anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, they plan on going to Mexico.
Yeah.
They get to Mexico and she just wants to dance. And he's like, fuck this. I want to get gasoline.
I've gone recognize
they're not in Mexico for this because they still have to pick up the count.
Well, yeah, that's true. But
there's a lot of people speaking Spanish.
No, they do go to Mexico, but they come back.
They come back to get the count?
Yeah.
Well, there's two Americans there filming. One thing I do want to say about the scene, and it'll probably be an enigma to me forever, but he talks her into marrying her.
Yeah.
And she's being like frantic, right? And then she becomes kind of lucid in this moment.
Yeah.
And she starts crying. And I'm thinking in my head, this is her last great acting moment. She's going back to the beginning of her career. She's convincing Manny that she will go with him, but she never will. She never will. So I think all of the stuff she does in this scene is her acting and reliving her glory days one last time before she dances off into the darkness.
It's a great performance.
Because it almost feels too saccharine.
It's too neat. It's too neat. Yeah.
Yes. So I think she fools Manny by acting to get him to take her somewhere where he will lose sight of her. Yeah. Because she knows she can't get away any other way.
This also may be giving her too much credit, but I also want to think that she has recognized that Manny has loved her for all these years and wants to leave him with the idea that
she was good enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's either that or she didn't want to be trapped again.
It could, it could be, both of these things could be true.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Schrodinger's my pussy. Or my,
That's why I think it's it's Schrodinger's my pussy. Just Schrodinger's pussy would be good.
yeah.
You had to throw the my in there for us to know what you meant.
That's good. That's
good stuff, Geoff. But yeah, I do think she was acting for the last time, and then she does her. And thank you, Geoff, for mentioning, because I forgot I was actually paying attention this time for all the mirror moments because I remember it from the movie, but I was like, are there more?
Yeah.
Like her saying, I'll dance off into the sunset or into the darkness. I didn't even catch that today.
Fucking perfect.
And that's what she does.
Yeah, because they come back to get the count, and she just gets out of the car and dances away.
Yeah.
And we never see her again. She just fades into the darkness of the street, gone forever. He goes in to get the count, and he's there with his roommate, and the assassin comes in, kills the roommate and the count. No bullets. No more bullets.
Yeah, he's out.
He does change his clip, I think.
You hear him change his clip.
Oh, okay. So,
but Manny is like, please don't do this. And
Manny being a lowly Mexican, what he uses to get out of it is what saves him. I'm a nobody. I'm Mexican.
I'm nobody.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, get the fuck out of LA then.
And never come back. Yep. Yeah. And he does. Yeah. Now, one thing I do, before we talk about...
When he notices the Count's headshots, it's a little heartbreaking.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a little heartbreaking. It's another just jab at
the guy who's been around Hollywood ever, and he became a drug dealer to be around it.
But he just wants to be an actor,
Yeah.
Well, and and when he gets outside, he notices that Nellie is gone, but he's got to go. You know, he's self-preservation at this point. She left him, so he's done. Before we transition to 1952, I do want to talk a little bit about that Manny and Nellie theme. Yeah. Because and to compare that to La La Land. In La La Land, there's that whole 9-minute sequence with the entire theme that plays out the what if situation between Gosling and Stone. That's an entire story written.
Yeah.
But the theme for this is really only 2 bars. The song never begins because they never begin.
Yeah. Oh.
And it's a brilliant representation that it's fleeting for them, and it will always be.
It's another reason why I on your own. That's
pretty good.
It's another reason I should have won best score. That's great, Geoff. That's great stuff.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I was thinking about that today because I thought, I'm going to watch that end of La La Land one more time because that is the best part of the movie.
Yes, it is.
But it is because because that tells a whole story. Yeah. That song, even though there is a little bit more to that song, it's mostly just the piano bits up and down in those 2 bars, and it's the song can never start itself because they can't.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Huh.
That's going to be on your greatest hits, Geoff. That
I still got it.
So let's talk about 1952 now.
This is the part I thought, holy shit, Jason's going to just eviscerate this movie.
I absolutely ate up the sentimentality. I ate it up.
It's you're done not really well.
I'm licking it from a saucer of milk like Nicole Kidman.
That movie proved there's no good way of drinking milk ever. Out of a glass, out of a saucer, doesn't matter. Jason's not typically one for that sentimentality.
No.
I am a very sentimental person, so I liked it. But
Jason's
I knew
weepier than we are, though.
I know, but he gets weepy, but he doesn't normally buy into purposeful sentimentality.
Yeah, it worked so well for me, though. For Manny, it worked so well.
I think the fact that it's the nostalgia of film.
And it's us. Manny is us, right?
Yes, the nostalgia of film, the nostalgia of your life, and like how you can see moments in time and relate them to music or movies or whatever is what this is doing. It's weird. It's a bit weird, but I like it. Like all the RGB or whatever you call it, like
it's the dying of the dying of the old silent films. Because one of the things about this is that I guess we'll talk about that once we get through to the end. But this is where we find out what happened to everybody. We didn't talk about the last scene Jack Conrad had, which was he's been told basically that, and he realizes like, yeah, he makes shit movies now. He's a supporting actor as opposed to a lead. He gets one last visit from Lady Faye, who's headed off to Europe, which I think will probably end poorly for her because they're not going to take too kindly to two aspects of her character there very shortly. But she's headed off to Europe, and he's basically saying to her, it's like, yeah, you know, I had a pretty good run, didn't I? And she's like, you sure did. And he's like, he's got a new young girlfriend. He's like, she has no idea that she's going to end up like the rest of them.
You should save her.
Yeah.
Or you might need to save her, he says.
Right. And basically, you know, she's like, well, I gotta go. I'll see you later. And he's like, great. And he goes over to his girlfriend's like, I'm going to go upstairs and get the cigars. He passes the bellhop and it's like, what was the greatest tip you ever had?
I love it.
And he's like, $50. I'm like, well, who gave that to you? I'm like, well, you did. He's like, wow. And he just takes all the money out of his pocket and just gives it to him. He's like, you're the future now. It's all, you know, it's yours.
Up to you, young
it's all up to you.
But this is an elephant shit drop again, because you know what you're in for.
Yep.
Once he gives him all the money in his pocket, it's like, okay, I've been warned. Warned.
Yep. And it's a long shot too, because it follows him
too, because it's like it further endears you to this character.
Yeah,
because he's a benevolent fucking ambler.
He's not
right?
just giving him a good tip now. He's given him the best tip he ever had. Who knows when before this, right?
Right.
He's a good dude.
Yeah.
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 And it's a long shot that follows him up, you know, out of the sitting room, up the hall, you know, up the stairs, down the hall, into the room. The door doesn't shut all the way. And it's like, yep, we know what we're about to see before he even crosses the door crack again with the gun in his hand. And he kills himself.
But again, it's like that exploitation, because
the
door would have remained closed. We would have heard a gunshot in maybe a lesser movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And we only get the blood splatter. Thank God.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is there to really, I mean, again, it's kind of the artistic side of it is we've seen so much already. What's a little bit of blood, you know, at this point? To our most likable character in this whole movie.
And seeing it isn't as bad as thinking about what happened to this man. But sorry, go ahead, Jason. What were you saying?
I was just going to say it shows for restraint in a movie that hasn't shied away from.
It's like halfway, right? In between really showing you and being not.
I think there is something to say to meeting this movie halfway for this moment, because he's so likable.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's the one guy we don't really want to see. I mean, like, as much as we are
an emotional intelligence in Chazelle's way he portrays the scene.
Yes. I mean, because as much as we really are supposed to be like Manny,
don't rub our noses in it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because we've had our noses, like Jason and I have had our noses rubbed in a beloved character in a grotesque way in a video game.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not pleasant.
No, it's not at all.
Yeah. So this is good. This is a good way to do that for sure.
Yeah. So now, in 1952, Manny has brought his wife and his daughter to LA. His daughter's first time of seeing LA. They stop at the Kinescope, gates. There happens to be a Hispanic guard there, and they, he says, I used to work here. It's like, oh, I just started, last week or 2 weeks ago or whatever, last month, whatever he says. And he's like, oh, do you like it? It's like, yeah, it's okay. It's a nice little moment. Yeah. It shows that to him, there wasn't the magic of them. He's not clamoring for that. Right. It's a job.
Yeah.
Which says a lot about the movie industry by 1952 too, right? Like it's really sanitized. And
right. It's if it wasn't a business before, it has become a business now. It's corporations now.
Right. Yeah. The people in the second party won.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't work for Kinescope.
now because you love movies. You work for it
Right.
because it's just a good paying job, maybe. Yeah.
Right. And you see that with some of the clips that lead you into 1952, which is the buildup of the studio stages, the Oscars, all of that stuff has really revolutionized the industry, for better or worse.
Yeah.
And it is what it is now. And
What's made it a true industry. Yeah.
Exactly. And the wild days are behind them, at least publicly.
Yeah.
And then, and so he decided, like, the wife and daughter go back to the hotel room. He goes for a walk just to kind of revisit LA and Hollywood.
And it kind of looks nice now, which is a juxtaposition to
when we saw, because if you look at the street that Nellie danced away on, it looks like a slum.
Yeah.
Now it looks clean and white and pristine,
Yeah.
And he stops.
And that's probably a joke on the view of Hollywood. Like,
I mean, it probably was cleaner in 1952 as opposed to when I was there in 2009.
It's also a really big area of land. Like, there are better places and there are places that look worse than others.
Sure.
Say that.
But he walks past the movie theater and he decides he's going to watch the movie. And he's not really paying much attention to it until Singing in the Rain starts playing. And he starts to think back.
He starts to see the things in Singing in the Rain that he lived. Right?
Yes.
Yeah,
and he also is reacting to the audience.
Yeah,
reacting to it, and we get this big panning shot of the audience, which is interesting because in 2022 there were 3 movies that used something that was shown in this scene. There was Babylon, of course. The movie in 1952 that the Fablemans watch is The Greatest Show on Earth. Both 1952 movies.
Yeah.
And then one of the first things they show in the big montage of all of the movies made is the big thing in Nope about the guy on the horse.
The horse. Yeah.
All of that.
Birth of cinema, almost. Yeah.
Right. All of that is.
Yeah.
2020. Yeah. So
they were trying to bring us back to the theater after COVID. So
that was
at the beginning. Yeah.
Remember, it's magic.
Yep.
Theater is magic. movies are great, guys.
Yeah. And and so you start seeing all of the going from dying film to set a certain emotion in a silent film to movies being talkies to colorized to all of these things leading up to Jurassic Park and all of these great achievements in movie.
Matrix,
and when it comes back to Manny, he's crying.
Yeah.
And and it's part of it is he set out to do, and he did what he wanted to do, which was be a part of something that's forever.
Right.
Absolutely. And his, and I think these are, like, as sad as he might be for the days that have gone by, these are tears of joy, because I think it's okay to weep the past, but still be proud of it and still be happy that you were part of it.
I also think he's overwhelmed again by the magic of movies.
He did mention that he hasn't seen movies in a long time. Yeah.
He hadn't watched a movie in a long time. I think he's rediscovered why movies matter in that moment.
Yes, because his involvement in them took him away from what he really loved about them.
Yeah.
He was too close.
And now being in the theater, it's like The Observer again with Eleanor. He can see it from a different light now.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, it's it is really it's a great love letter to movies.
Yeah.
And is it kind of cheesy? Yeah, but guess what? So are the fucking movies. They just are.
You know what I got on this third viewing is and I don't think that Chazelle was necessarily thinking about this, but it works. Is when now we're dealing with this whole situation with what is artificial intelligence going to do to movie making? What is cinema now, right? Like, I feel like cinema in the last 2 years, and the time since this movie was released has gone through a crisis just in 2 years, right? And it's a fascinating topic, because back in like the early 70s, there was a documentary that Wim Wenders did that was about it was just a documentary where he asked all the Cannes participants what they thought about the death of cinema. Is cinema dying? This would have been 50 years ago or something, right? And they gave their opinions on the state of cinema. And then somebody else did a follow-up to that a few years ago, and asked all the Cannes recipients what they thought about the state of cinema. Cinema is always on the edge of dying. This is my takeaway. People always think cinema is about to die. There are optimistic viewpoints and there are pessimistic viewpoints, but the prevailing sentiment is that it's going to change. Right?
That's it, right? It's going to change, and it will survive.
Yep.
It will change and survive.
Stories
like it
will
did
always
back
be
then.
told, and what we know as cinema, even 20 years ago, is not what we're going to experience, perhaps moving forward. But cinema will somehow prevail.
And the next thing will blow us away, like the people who heard sound for the first time in a movie.
Think about this.
So in some ways, this movie makes me optimistic about the future of cinema, right?
So,
I'm still so scared.
Yeah. Well, I've got a couple of things about that. First, think about this, right? The movie that has the most influence on where we are today is Star Wars, obviously. But if you go that number of years backwards from Star Wars, people are just getting used to sound in movies.
Yeah.
So those are huge gaps, right?
Yep.
But what happens in the in-between of those is where all of that innovation and all of that new ways of telling a story, a new way of presenting something, and all of that happens. But the other thing because I always get fascinated when I think about 30 years ago, what was it like to see Jurassic Park, since it was used in this?
Yeah.
And then I think, the 30 years before that, you have fucking Oliver or something on, and it's like a movie that's meant to be a crowd pleaser, but miles apart in how they do it.
Right.
But the other thing that I was going to say is one thing I felt really, really, I think this past year, 2024, has been a pretty good year. I think it's been pretty good in terms of a lot of movies making money too.
Yeah.
But I was
conventional movies making money too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I sat in a nearly sold out theater for A Complete Unknown.
Nice.
Here's a biopic drama about a singer who people much younger than us, like 15, 20 years younger than us, aren't going to have the same connection to. And yet I was not the youngest person in that auditorium by a long shot.
Timothy Chalamet experience right there. Yeah.
I guess,
probably.
but I love the fact that they're selling the soundtrack with the actors singing.
Right.
That's really cool because they did a great job on that. But it was good to see, at 6:30, even though, it was the day after Christmas and people are off or whatever, but that was a packed theater and people were digging it, so it's like that felt good that this drama, that this biopic could pack an auditorium.
Yep.
A medium-sized auditorium too, not the smallest one and not the biggest one, because Wicked's still all over the place in the big ones, but you get what I'm saying. I'm optimistic because I think we are at a point where some bubbles are going to burst. And I think the first little attempt to put that pinprick into the bubble was, oddly enough, Godzilla. how do you make a movie that looked that good on $15 million?
Right.
Everybody's got to catch up to that because movies can't keep costing $250 million. So anyway.
Yeah.
Last thing
I think part of it too is like the death of the movie star.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, so many
it's characters
are
now
wrapped up in stars budgets, right? You have to budget $25 million for Brad Pitt. That shit's over now, you know? Yeah. Sorry, Geoff. What was your or Chuck? What was your?
I really have nothing to say about where Hollywood and cinema is going to go. I just wanted to say with this movie, my last thought is, I don't think I'm yet done discovering what this movie is trying to tell me or show me, or there's so much there that I noticed this time that I didn't notice the first time. And I'm not on my third, so maybe you guys have completed your act of learning, but it feels like there's so much to this movie that is yet to be like uncovered in a way.
What I love about this movie is that it's saying something that I think is timeless.
It's a universal thing, yeah.
It's a timeless thing, and I think that the history of cinema will reflect upon this movie. Like, so you can go back to this movie, and like I just said, like my third watch, I started thinking about the influence of AI in filmmaking. Right? I didn't think about that the first two times. Times I thought about it, but we're in like a new sound era of filmmaking. Is it crisis? Is it the death of a thing? Is it a fad? Is it going to?
It's going to impact the artists instead.
But it's going to impact the artists in some way, right?
Right,
I mean,
like sounded for
you
the
already
the
see
actors.
it with like that Zemeckis movie with Robin Penn and Tom Hanks. Like that's like an AI computer generated movie. That's a movie that you would have cast different aged actors in those roles. But no, we have computers now. We have AI that can make them look younger. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I don't know. I don't.
It's a little too early to tell yet. I mean, I think
I don't necessarily like it, but yeah, we don't know.
I mean, it might be something to where if some of the AI stuff is going to be a net positive. Some of it's going to be a net negative, and it will get washed out.
Yeah.
What's interesting about that is that this movie suffered kind of the same snap judgment, right? Like it was too early to tell how good this movie was.
This movie has
like in
a lot
20
to
years,
say.
it's going to be, like you guys were saying earlier, it's going to be reappraised and people are going to appropriately rate it. Yeah. Just like people are always like with change, they make snap judgments on stuff. So yeah, there's millions of people with AI right now that are like, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. And it might be.
It might be. I mean,
but there might be good that comes of it too.
Hopefully, like there's a way that everybody's happy. Like it is a tool that is used, but that doesn't compromise the art, right?
Yep.
And anyway, good movie.
This is a great movie. Great movie.
Yeah, it is. It's a pretty good movie. I would like to hold off seeing it again for say 5 or 10 years.
Yeah,
how am I gonna feel about it when I'm in my 50s?
My second and third views are like really close together because I wanted to watch it with Susan, and then Chuck, you recommended we watch. So I watched it, within a 3 or 4 month time period. But I definitely want to put it down for a while. Yeah. And come back to it in several years. Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I think we did it.
We did it.
I mean, 2.5 hours. I think we better have done it.
I mean, we came in under the runtime. That's always good.
That's true. I mean, well, we don't often do that. Anyway, next week we move to the C. The letter C.
The letter C.
Frankly, Scarlett, you're a collateral. That's the other C word. Collateral is next week's movie. Yeah. Tom Cruise, Jamie Foxx, Michael Mann.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good
Sounds like
fun
a good
time to me.
Yeah.
It's a movie I haven't seen since it came out.
Oh, nice.
and I pretty much liked it then. But
Yeah, it's a pretty good movie. I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, that's next Wednesday, January 15th. Go to filmseizure.com. That's where you can find all of our episodes, where you can listen to them. Also, if you have a preferred podcast platform, that is, and also where you can follow us on various social media sites. Also at filmseizure.com this upcoming Monday, January 13th. I have Godzilla versus Hedorah, the smog monster. So that's a good time. It's a weird movie, man. It's a weird movie, but a fun one. So that is same place, filmseizure.com. This upcoming Friday at my website, bmovieanima.com, I am continuing Pia Zadora month against my doctor's best advice. And we've got Fake Out, which co-stars Telly Savalas and Desi Arnaz Jr.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. Anyway, it's supposedly a comedy. I didn't find anything funny about it. Anyway, so yeah, that's what we're looking at. Well, guys, I think I need to dance off into the dark.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so until then, I am Geoff Arbuckle.
I'm Chuck Moore.
I'm Jason Oliver, and you have been listening to Film Seizure.